3,
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Brew Sports NFL Draft Party live here on Brew Sports. A very good evening to you. The 2017 NFL Draft just getting underway just a little while ago. I am Baxter Colburn. That is Scott Wisniewski. We've got two more great gentlemen joining us in just a little bit here. Ian DeMars and Barry Nelson are on their way to the studio. They're going to be filling out the other two spots on the show this evening. Some exciting times, to say the least, Scott. A very good evening to you. You've gone on record numerous times on Brew Sports to say that you just fall in love with the draft, but not too early, not too late. You wait until it's just right to finally fall in love.
Yeah, last weekend I said, all right, now it's time.
Finally. Now it's time to get the party started.
And this is such a huge event. And, you know, we were talking off the air a little bit about the days when it was a Saturday and Sunday event.
Right.
And now it's 3 days, Thursday, Friday, in prime time. You have cities competing to host the draft. This year it's Philadelphia. Next year, who knows where it's going to be. And it's just become, again, the power of the NFL. You know, they basically own the sports landscape.
True.
People sit around with, you know, anticipation, waiting for their schedule to get released, for crying out loud. And here it is drafted. A couple things, because we're going to kind of run the gamut. We're going to talk about
Cleveland's on the clock right now with no official pick yet.
And we know who, we're pretty sure we know who they're going to pick. But one of the things I found interesting, and I guess I didn't realize it until I was going to see it. We were watching some of the pre-draft coverage on ESPN, and it's so weird to not see, even though I've grown tired of him, to not see Chris Berman hosting the NFL draft.
Right. Chris Berman, for those that don't remember, was one of the few that they moved out of Sunday NFL Countdown, and they replaced him with like 3 other people, I feel like. I think that's correct. So a little strange to not see him like that. Chris Mortensen has been a part of the broadcast, Adam Schefter as well, too, among many others, Troy Wingo. The usual suspects, of course, have been helping ESPN anchor their coverage this evening.
Yeah, today it's Kuiper and Trey Wingo at the desk, along with, I believe I saw a couple other. Gruden was there, of course.
John Gruden's there, of course, and then Theo Riddick, I want to believe. Not Theo. Is it Theo Riddick? I always get the former running the Lions running back with the other Riddick. I don't understand what's going on, but. Either way, though, we're going to be here with you for the entire first round tonight. We want to hear from you folks out there tonight as we go about things. Great to see all of you, of course. Jeff, Patrick, Greg, Josh, everybody, Tanner tuning in as well, too. We are still awaiting the Cleveland Browns' first pick, and I think a lot of folks are believing and hoping, for the most part, I guess if you are a Browns fan, that it is going to be Myles Garrett first overall tonight. And there's been reports out of Cleveland that it's going to be. The weird part about all this, though, is that Garrett himself says, at least as of about 25 minutes ago, the Browns had still yet to contact him to say that they were going to take him first overall.
I don't know that surprises me, just because I know how weird Cleveland is, and the pick is actually in.
I was going to say, pick actually officially in
as well, Myles Garrett.
So there you have it, Myles Garrett, the first overall pick. And
because there's some rumors floating around of some trades in the works, perhaps moving up to the 5 pick, getting Tennessee's pick, and still getting a quarterback, which then ends whatever the debate might have been. I think, though, instead of reaching for that quarterback, if you get him at 5, it still might be a little bit of a reach, but you got a solid guy to help anchor that defense. I think it's the right pick for them.
Right, and I find it hilarious, too. We've got the TV on here in the studio looking at some of the fun facts they say about the players. His favorite musicians, he likes to write poetry in his spare time. I mean, If I'm drafting a guy first overall in the NFL draft, I mean, football is a sport where you hit people. I'm like, that's great that he enjoys poetry in his spare time, but I don't necessarily know if that needs to be one of his fast facts.
The one that's surprising me and that I didn't know is he almost chose Ohio State over Texas A&M because of their paleontology program.
But it's very well known for those that know about Myles Garrett that he does love dinosaurs. So it's kind of funny that was a what do we do, I guess? I mean, Greg on Facebook saying that he's happy that the Browns don't have to fold again because they actually drafted somebody worthy of coming on their team. San Francisco is on the clock now, of course, so the clock is running for what the 49ers may do this very evening. But do you have any closing thoughts about Myles Garrett here before we move on?
And every mock draft I looked at, and I take some of them with a grain of salt, and some of them I take a little bit more stock in just because of past history on some of these, but nobody thought any different than Myles Garrett. So believe it or not, so pick 1 went like the way we thought. Pick 2 could be interesting because I've seen a couple of names that have been predominant. Solomon Thomas, the defensive end from Stanford, which is kind of the hometown local kid sort of for the San Francisco 49ers. And I've seen safety Jamal Adams from LSU. So this is right away in pick 2. This could turn the draft a little bit and start a domino effect for picks 3, 4, and 5.
Well, and from what I'm hearing too, apparently San Francisco and the Browns are apparently, or the San Francisco and the Bears are apparently working on some possible trade of some sorts. At least that's what Tanner's telling us. Yeah, so the 49ers and the Bears have swapped picks apparently. So now Chicago is on the clock. Didn't see that coming.
Very weird to me because unless they desired the same player, and I have seen the Bears interested in both of those players.
Right.
What was the need to make the swap? Because the Bears were going to pick 3 anyway.
Right, exactly. Like, are you that concerned about who might be selected by the 49ers that all of a sudden, you have to jump up? And there's rumors, of course, that it might be Solomon Thomas. There's rumors that they still – I've even heard them potentially looking at a quarterback, which I know certain Bears fans have been very non-positive about.
But then they didn't need to have to move up. It's a dumb trade for the Bears. I hate to – I don't want to be the guy who plays because we're located here in Milwaukee and plays the homer. Oh, the Bears are dumb, but that's dumb.
That seems like a bit of a foolish move, personally. Yeah, I don't understand why the Bears are on the clock. And if I'm very curious to know what they do for this selection, honestly.
And if you're the Niners, because I've heard that the camp has been split 50-50 between Adams and Thomas, then let the Bears make the pick for you, essentially.
Right.
And that's what they're doing here because I think the school of thought was both of those players were going to fill a need for the 49ers. Now they get, and we'll find out all the details of the draft, but they likely get some later round draft picks and still get a player they wanted.
Well, the thing, at least according to the information that I'm seeing, is that Chicago gets to go back-to-back now. Chicago's going 2 and 3 right now, so this is what the interesting thing is. We're learning a lot of this on the fly as you guys are. That's
when we're live.
Exactly. So we don't have a producer in our ear telling us what's taking place as it is. We do obviously know that Myles Garrett got taken 1 overall, but the Bears are going to pick 2 and 3.
Well, then it's a smart pick.
That changes the whole game. Then we just went from Bear haters to all of a sudden going, oh well.
Now they could get both of the guys they want. If they want Thomas, if they want Jamal Adams, the other guy I've heard kind of talked about. Alabama defensive end Jonathan Allen could be in the mix there.
Yeah.
Lattimore, the cornerback from Ohio State, because they could. The Bears, when you look at defense, I don't think there's a spot on that team where you could say they definitely don't need some help. I'm not saying they're the worst roster in football, but they could use help at every position. But defense, I think they're going to solidify with back-to-back picks. Now, if they really desire the quarterback like we talked about, then it might make sense to have these back-to-back picks because they could jump over that 5 spot and then grab a defensive player and maybe Trubisky, which then negates Cleveland trading with Tennessee to move up for that.
Right, exactly. So now I'm being a little confused in all honesty because at least according to what we're seeing on NFL.com and as we're following other things, it says the Bears are going 2-3 right now, but according to ESPN, it looks like San Francisco's going 3rd now, honestly. But I don't think that's correct because I think they're just calling the Bears are just going back-to-back and just not even bothering putting up the end next pick. So I'm assuming that's what they're doing. I'm going to say the Bears are going twice. I will say I'm a little confused now on how this plays into the other quarterbacks that are out there because there was rumors that Trubisky or Deshaun Watson might be going to San Francisco. Now all of a sudden it kind of opens the door up a little bit more for something else to move around.
Well, there is some talk. Again, we talked about the defense needing help, but the Bears they had the worst defense as far as scoring defense in the league last year. Giving up almost 30 points a game. So it would surprise me. And again, I know quarterbacks in need, but I don't see either of these 2 top quarterbacks being a franchise saver.
Right. That's a very valid truth. And honestly, people, Greg giving us the official insight here too. Greg is one of our NFL correspondents. He says the Bears gave up gave up 3, 67, and 111 and a 3rd rounder next year, not going back-to-back 2 and 3 apparently. So there we go.
Then that's the stupidest trade I've ever seen.
I really want to know who they decided to pick up in this one. Solomon Thomas is who it looks like they're potentially going to take. He's a terrific pass rusher, but at the same time, I don't know if that solves a lot of problems.
Is he that much better than a guy you would have picked 1 pick later that you'd give up a 2nd round pick or early third-round pick?
I don't think it is, honestly. I mean, yeah, Tanner thanking some people as well, too. Keep the comments rolling in as well, too. Josh says that's a lot to give us. I'm assuming Josh must be a Bears fan in this regard.
Well, the Bears are back to being stupid.
Right, exactly. You went from having our respect to now being called completely stupid and illiterate and just foolish as a whole, too. So the Bears pick is officially in. I'm going to assume that it's Solomon Thomas, in all honesty, because why move up if you were that concerned about potentially getting this guy? Yeah, they're showing this. Like, I don't understand. The 49ers get the 3rd overall pick, the 3rd and 4th round picks in 202017, and they get the 2018 third round pick.
I think they're going to.
You think the Bears are going to take a quarterback?
That's what I'm seeing from Ian Rappaport right here.
Wow.
That he's going with Trubisky, which is completely ridiculous. We're going to get it confirmed. I know it's.
Yep, Trubisky.
Yep.
That's what they're confirming. Good Lord.
So you move up one spot to take the quarterback that San Francisco wasn't going to take in the first place.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do something like that?
Well, because they're the Bears, apparently.
That is very true. No, I completely agree with you on that one, too. Ian DeMars is finally here in the studio as well,
Bears
too.
fans are shocked.
They have no clue what's going on. Mitch is shaking hands and kissing babies. I mean, I would be like, if I was Mitch Trubisky, I'd raise my hand and be like, didn't you just sign Mike Glennon? Why are you drafting me?
And if you're Mike Glennon, you're probably like, oh, great.
Exactly. Yeah, nobody saw this coming. Jay Cutler round 2 is what Tim is saying on Facebook. Yeah, people apparently are freaking out. But Trubisky officially headed to the Bears. I didn't see this coming. I don't know if anybody saw this coming.
Here's something interesting. 13.
He's got a really weird look on his face, too, which is kind of fun. He's like, are you kidding me?
Trubisky only had 13 career starts in college, the fewest of any first-round draft pick quarterback since 2002.
I don't understand it. I know Ian's here, so I want to have Ian
come on
walk in. It's a party tonight, Ian. So come on, have a seat, grab a microphone, join the party, give us your raw reaction. Keep giving us your raw reaction as well, too, folks. We'd love to hear from all of you. Certainly some crazy stuff taking place this evening, of course. Ian DeMars, one of our great correspondents here on the Brew Sports Network, joining us in studio.
The best part about this, if you're San Francisco, is you're like, I liked 2 guys, and they're both still on the board.
Right, exactly. You can take Solomon Thomas now and 3 or 4 other people. You get 3 more picks out of this deal just to move up. Who thought this was a good idea? But, I mean, let's be honest. Every year at the NFL draft, there's always that 1 or 2 picks in the first top 10, basically, that people freak out and lose their minds over. So, I don't get it.
I'm trying to think who – I mean, Tennessee wouldn't have probably drafted Trubisky unless – Cleveland would have made a trade for him. So, Cleveland was probably competing against the Bears. Some people thought perhaps Jacksonville might have traded their pick to him too, but none of these other teams that are going to pick in the next 5 unless Cleveland was going to make a trade. So those rumors had to be pretty solvent if they figured that we had to do something now, because they must have really believed that Cleveland was close to making a deal and grabbing him.
I'm really confused by this. I'm looking at the comments here on Facebook too, because I still am just absolutely beside myself. I don't understand it, honestly.
You could have drafted him at 3.
Yeah, exactly. I guarantee you he would have still been there. They would have still been there.
The only thing I could think is maybe they were thinking Cleveland was trying to work a deal with San Francisco, so they figured, well, we'll give you a better deal. Don't make that trade with Cleveland. Make it with us, because it's the only thing that could possibly make sense.
That is very true. Ian, of course, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. It's great to have you on the program, of course. So your instant reaction to this chaos that is obviously the Chicago I almost called them the Bulls, the Chicago Bears.
Oh, they're collapsing too.
They are.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. The only reason I would see Chicago trading up is maybe there's going to be a 3rd team that could possibly trade and get Trubisky. That's the only thing that I could see why they would pick Trubisky.
If you're in Chicago right now, you watched your Blackhawks get swept. You watched your Bulls blowing what was a 2-0 lead.
Right.
And now your Bears just traded away some valuable picks to move up 1 spot to grab a quarterback that's not even a game changer, in my opinion.
See, this is where I think things really start to get a little crazy now, because you have this quarterback that is very unproven, that a lot of people have no idea what to think about now with him going forward. You're San Francisco. You're sitting here going, all right, not only do we get the guy we want, likely Solomon Thomas, to help up their pass rush, because all of San Francisco's defense a couple years ago basically just retired all at once and said, okay, we're done thanks for nothing. I really think it raises a lot of questions about what to do now going forward if you are the 49ers.
Well, and Ian, if you're the 49ers, again, we talk about teams with a lot of needs. 31st in offense, 32nd in defense. They could pretty much go anywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, whoever they would have picked at 2 would have been a perfect find for me. I mean, I know I personally had picked Solomon Thomas because I feel like he would have been the best available at number 2. Going Jamal Adams would have been a great choice as well, but
they're going to get. They could get either.
They're going to get either one of those, but they could have also got Mitch Trubisky at 2 because who knows? That quarterback situation isn't the best right now because who knows? Next year they could get Kirk Cousins possibly, but Brian Hoyer's not going to be the answer for them. I mean, look at his history. I mean, he's put up decent numbers, but he has a big injury history. So it just doesn't make sense for why Chicago would do this, but this is a huge win if you're San Francisco.
Well, think about the quarterbacks for a minute now. Trubisky and Deshaun Watson are probably the only first-rounders. I mean, there's some other guys, Mahomes and maybe Peterman that could be a second-round pick. But those are the two. Do you see another quarterback going in the first round?
I think Mahomes, honestly, because he played. He
has the talent.
Yeah,
let's
he
be
has
honest.
the talent. He has great potential. And if you looked at John Gruden QB's camps, he picked Mahomes as the guy who's going to have the best NFL future out of all the quarterbacks that went there. And this guy has a huge arm. He can throw it 65 yards on his knees.
That is true, yeah. I mean, you got to get – but that's the thing, too. I've been very critical of Patrick Mahomes, though, because he's being compared to Brett Favre purely because he's the gunslinger.
Yeah.
But he's also being compared to Jay Cutler.
Right. Which I think is even more
not
worrisome.
added to. I think, because if you look at what Cutler had from a skill set coming out of college and even his first couple years in the league, they compared Cutler to Brett Favre.
That's true.
But
that is true. I forgot about that.
I don't think they took into account the head or lack of,
So,
level-headedness.
I don't understand this, in all honesty. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around this. The comment section is freaking out about this. They don't understand what's going on either. Tanner says on Facebook, he says, San Francisco definitely bluffed Chicago, had them to force the trade somehow. Tanner also says Mahomes and Watson will be gone tonight. Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, I would be surprised if they weren't, especially now that Trubisky's gone with pick 2. You leave the door wide open for so many teams. But now if you're Cleveland, do you take Deshaun Watson or do you take Patrick Mahomes at 12 now? Are they going to even be there at this point? We don't know.
I think one of them will be. If you're Cleveland and you really believe what some of the pundits say, because I still think Mahomes was an early second-round pick, but if he's a first-round talent and you're Cleveland and you wanted a quarterback and a defensive stalwart, you could walk away with both of those.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on that one, too. And Tim on Facebook here says, Trubisky has no proof that he will do anything in the NFL. 8-5 as a one-year starter. I'm not upset as a Packers fan. Exactly. If you're a Green Bay Packers fan right now, you are having a party. You're thrilled because you're like, okay, we had to deal with Mike Glennon. Okay, he's not awful. But now you have Mitch Trubisky, who is probably more unproven than. I mean, the fact that Johnny Manziel had a better college career than Mitch Trubisky did, and Mitch Trubisky just got drafted second overall, I think is a little bit laughable, honestly.
If you look at Chicago, Trubisky might not even be the starter this year. You look at Glennon, I believe he signed it was a 3-year deal?
Yeah, 3 years,
So you look
$36 million, something like that.
You have Glennon start this year. He struggles. You put Trubisky in towards the end of the year. And then going into the following season, then you evaluate who's going to be our quarterback. And if Glennon does well this year, you stick with Glennon. If it's Trubisky that seems like he's got the potential, you stick that guy in. But, yeah, I mean, like all of us, I'm still shocked that this happened.
Exactly. And we do have official word, too. Solomon Thomas has been selected by the San Francisco 49ers. So no surprise about that. I mean, we know that San Francisco has had a lot of issues defensively. They need to get this back. This isn't the Patrick Willis. This isn't the Patrick Willis. This isn't the Chris Borland. This isn't the shutdown 49ers defense that took them to the Super Bowl that ultimately ended up losing to Baltimore. Like, this team has a lot of holes to fill. I mean, and Brian Hoyer's their starting quarterback. San Francisco is not, I feel like, as far from done. They've got 12 total picks tonight. Starting with Solomon Thomas, I think that's a very good base.
Oh, 12 picks. I mean, again, so you get extra picks, some of very high value, and you still get a player you probably wanted anyway.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a huge win for San Francisco. I mean, you can't complain with it. The only way you can complain with it is if you're a Bears fan who you get Glennon and then you draft a quarterback. It just doesn't make any sense unless you're doing you want to try out Glennon for a year, and then if it works out, you go with, or if it works out, great. If it doesn't, you go with Trubisky. It just doesn't make sense that they would go this high on someone that, especially since they signed a quarterback. You figured if they would go after a quarterback, it would be second or third round because there are some good quarterbacks in this draft.
Right, exactly.
So the fact that they would give up 2 of their picks in this, or they swap picks and then give up 2 more picks in this draft just doesn't make any sense.
Jacksonville's on the clock now, and they're in a position to make a colossal mistake as well. Because everywhere I've looked, and from what I've heard, and I've actually got a friend of mine who's in the media in Jacksonville, they're talking that it sounds like it's going to be Fournette, the running back. I just don't feel good. Oh, here's the thing.
I don't know.
I don't think Fournette's a bad player.
No.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's the type of back that you take in the top 5. I think there's a lot of good backs in this draft that are all pretty much equal, and we've seen the running back position change in the last decade, where every team has 2 guys. Now you don't have the one bell cow. You could plug in some guys, second, third, fourth round guys, and they can be just as effective as some of the guys being drafted in the first round. And I know Jacksonville wants to improve that running game,
right?
But they've got some other needs as well, and I think it's a reach, but I think they're going to go with Fournette.
Well, and that's the big thing about this, too. Jacksonville hasn't had a solid running back since guys like Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew were toting the ball for them. They've had T.J. Yeldon on the team. He's not a bad running back, and he's more of that running back that fits the traditional NFL style nowadays where he can catch and run the ball. But Fournette is your bruiser. That's what you want.
Well, but they also don't have a line that's a run-blocking line.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Great. They're bringing in a running back. Are you going to address the fact that the offensive line isn't built for necessarily a successful running game?
Well, they definitely need to address the offensive line, but this isn't a draft where an offensive lineman's going to be picked in the top 10 or top 15. I think most projections had the first O-lineman being selected 20th. So, I mean, if you're Jacksonville, you want a lineman, but you have to go with the guy who is either best available or someone that can become an impact for you, who has the most potential, and that's why I see Fournette being the guy here.
That is true. Jacksonville's pick is in officially, too. We have yet to see who that will be.
By the way, you talked about, from a local standpoint here in Milwaukee, you talked about the first lineman going 20. Many people think it's going to be Ryan Ramczyk.
Yeah.
And they think that he's a first-rounder by default because the offensive line draft is so weak this year. So.
That is true. That is very true. So Jacksonville last year, they did take Jalen Ramsey as their amazing first-round draft pick. He ended up getting hurt very early into preseason. I've always been a big component that Jacksonville has a lot of really good defenders if they all stay healthy. And I know that's super cliche to say, but at the same time, you look at Jacksonville's defense on paper and even their offense on paper, they're very, very good.
Yeah, they have the potential to be a playoff team within the next 2 or 3 years, but the fact that they're inconsistent, they continue to get injured, it's just a matter of time where before you see it finally click for them. And I feel like this pick here maybe could be the start of that, unless we see what we've seen from Fournette in college where he continues to get injured.
They've spent money in free agency on the defensive side, has Jacksonville. So maybe they're thinking, look, we've done what we could. We've had some injuries last year. We think our defense is better than it showed because of some of the injuries. Maybe that's why they think they're going to go offense.
Yeah, and that's the honest truth about this. I mean, Jacksonville, you're 3-13. You play in a division that I think a lot of people still feel is fairly wide open.
Very wide open.
I mean, Houston was the best team in the division last year at 9-7. Tennessee was 9-7, and Indianapolis was a dismal 8-8 last year.
The stat I just saw, just to prove our point, Jacksonville committed $71 million in free agency. So
yeah, they've been signing people and that's the thing too. I've been a big component of not only what Jacksonville, but especially what Cleveland has been doing this offseason because they've been spending the money. It's not like Cleveland had $102 million in cap space, and they've been spending it smart. They've been buying offensive linemen to try to come in and shore up the defense, and then they try to figure everything out from there. We do have official confirmation. It is Leonard Fournette that the Jaguars did select. I can already hear Tanner crying far away because he thinks a running back in the first round at all is just a horrible idea, let alone in the top 5.
Well, look at Ezekiel Elliott last year. I mean,
right.
But you look at before Elliott, I would agree that picking a running back in the top 5 is a mistake. You look at past running backs selected in the top 5 like Reggie Bush, Cedric Benson. Trying to think of a couple others. I know those are a couple of main ones, but I feel like the trend is starting to turn upwards for running backs being selected early.
But there's a difference. You're right about Elliott, but that offensive line is the best in the game.
Exactly.
So you put him in a situation where he was going to be able to do his thing and be unencumbered and, not a whole lot of injury concern. There's different reasons for me to think that Elliott was a smarter pick than Lattimore in this situation.
Right.
But we'll see. And again, we could, do the autopsy of this draft a year from now and find out that we were all wrong and he's the best player in the game.
If there's one thing that goes positive for Leonard Fournette, he is close to where he already played college ball. He played over there at Louisiana, of course, at LSU. Now he's going to be just down over in Jacksonville. Not that long of a drive as someone that hails from from that Florida region. So I think that he's obviously the one thing that sometimes you hear about positive running backs that play in the heat that end up, getting drafted by like the Green Bays and the Giants and the colder weather teams as well. How are they going to perform? Leonard Fournette knows what it's like to play in the warm heat of the South, and I think he's going to continue to do that in Jacksonville. I mean, they've got a pool if he gets really hot, though.
Well, and plays in a division where he doesn't have to worry about cold because the coldest divisional team is Indianapolis. They have a dome. So if you're a warm weather player, you're going to play 8 games in Jacksonville and at least 5 or 6 more in warm weather. You're in pretty good shape.
How many rushing yards does he get rookie year? Over 1,000?
740.
I say he'll get around 800.
Around 800, yeah.
If he stays healthy, he'll have a shot.
TJ Yeldon is still on this team. They're going to have to split the carries unless they get rid of Yeldon.
That's the way, other than Ezekiel Elliott last year and maybe a handful of other guys, the way it's set up now is that every team has 2 guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you look at it, getting Fournette, I kind of see Fournette being the first and second down guy with Yeldon being that third down guy just because he has that ability to catch the ball.
And I find it interesting, too. People always talk about Tennessee is on the clock right now. We're waiting to hear about where they end up going with that one. They need a couple of different picks, but we'll get to that in a minute. With Leonard Fournette, though, you watch the highlights of him. You watch the way he runs over guys. No offense, the SEC is not the NFL. He's not going to be able to run over guys consistently at the NFL. These are grown men that are paid millions and millions of dollars to hit people, whereas these guys are just, out there because they love the game.
Right, because the SEC players are usually only paid hundreds of thousands.
Right, exactly. Not nearly the same. Totally different. I completely agree. So let's move away from Jacksonville. Tennessee's on the clock. 9-7 last year. I was very surprised about how the Tennessee Titans did last season. Marcus Mariota seems to kind of have figured out what it's like to be a quarterback in the NFL. Still not the high caliber dominating the league like he did when he played for Oregon, but he's got the great running backs of DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry behind him to bail him out.
And clearly they're fine at quarterback. Wide receiver, maybe?
Mariota's got to throw the ball to somebody.
I feel like one of the picks will be a wide receiver, but I feel like if anything, Tennessee could possibly trade this pick, but that was before
that was the rumors for a while. You're right.
If you look at it now, I could see them pushing for a receiver, but I feel like if you go Williams or Davis or Ross this high, I feel like that's a big risk. I feel like one of those guys would definitely be available at 18. So, there's a couple options here. You could go, I feel like it'll be a defensive pick. You could either go corner, which I see as a strong need. So you could go Lattimore, or if you want to go with best available, you could go Jamal Adams.
Also true.
Or you could go with a guy who I thought could be the guy available at the time, Jonathan Allen.
I think Lattimore is the smartest pick because, to your point, they do need a receiver, but I think those top 3 guys are so close as far as overall talent when you grade them out that they could still get a good one later on in the first round.
And that's the thing, too. When you look at the way these teams are kind of shaping up right now, Tennessee plays in a division that is very wide open. Houston has no clue who their quarterback's going to be next year. Indianapolis has been dismal the last 2 seasons because they don't have an offensive line, and Andrew Luck just decided to grow his beard instead of practice his accuracy in the offseason. And then you've got a team like Jacksonville, obviously, as we just mentioned, drafting Leonard Fournette and having a lot of possibility, but possibility doesn't get you very far in the National Football League. You can look the greatest as you want to on paper, but if it doesn't all come together on Sunday, that raises a lot of questions. I was a little upset that Tennessee didn't get in the playoffs last year. They ultimately lost the tiebreaker to Houston, and we all know how that worked out for the Texans.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. And like you were saying before, potential if it doesn't show up on Sunday, it's not a big thing. Like, look at Cleveland last year. People thought that when they got RG3 and they saw Gordon playing well, that they're going to be a playoff team. But you look at it's Cleveland. Like, they still need a lot of pieces, and they started off with getting a good piece in Garrett. Who knows what they'll do at 12 now?
Right, exactly. Tennessee is a team that last season, the big needs, at least according to Mel Kiper and others, is they need a cornerback, a defensive lineman, and they need a running back, which I don't understand why they need a running back when you have DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry on your team.
Yeah, the only question with Murray is, okay, so he had good season in Dallas, and he had a down year, but
right.
I think you're fine. I really think you're fine at running back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you look at the reason why he had a down year was because it was a different kind of offense he was in.
Right,
you look
exactly.
He has to be a guy that gets it in those long stretch plays. If he gets in those really quick, fast-paced offensive plays, he's not going to find the holes. So, it doesn't make sense why some people would think they would need a running back.
Well, go ahead.
No, and we're gonna kind of see here. I was reading something where they thought that there was a trade being discussed, but it's off the board right now, so it's still Tennessee's pick. But I was disappointed as well in them that make playoffs because I really like the way Mariota played.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that I'll be honest with you, he's outplayed the expectations I had for him. I just didn't think it was going to convert as well as it did to the pro game. But so far, so good 2 years in.
Somehow that mobile quarterback doesn't always transition the way you want it to the next level. And thankfully, for Tennessee Titan fans, I mean, they've been able to put it together. And they're taking their time all the way down to the bitter end here. Remember, this is the pick that they did acquire from the Rams earlier on, the LA Rams, not the St. Louis Rams.
Well, and that's the word I was getting is there were some trade discussions, which is why this pick took the whole length of the clock. But it sounds like they're keeping this pick and are going to make their
right. And the pick is officially in. We're waiting to hear exactly who it will end up being, but. Yeah, defensively, I feel like is the way you got to roll if you are Tennessee. They certainly have the greatest idea of, that they need to shore that up sooner rather than later. I think that, like I said, Tennessee very close to being a consistent playoff team with the talent that is on this roster. However, I don't necessarily know though if the one or two players that they're going to get here early on is going to be enough for the defense to push forward. Honestly. So we'll have to see, I guess. The Jets are going to be up next. That's another destination that the quarterbacks have been rumored at. So we'll have to see who ultimately ends up going there.
They need a tight end there, though. I mean,
they need a lot.
Do we see O.J. Simpson or not O.J. Simpson?
Wow. Hopefully not.
Howard?
Maybe they'll come back now. I can't even.
Howard.
O.J. Howard.
Yeah, I do.
Got my last names wrong.
I think that's.
Yeah, I feel like that's the safe pick. If
Simpson, Howard. So they ended up taking Corey Davis from the University of Western Michigan. Or Western Michigan University.
Wow.
You talked about a wide receiver. I feel like that's a little high for a wide receiver
Davis,
in this draft.
That's really high.
I heard Williams perhaps there, but
right.
not
Corey
Davis.
officially the 5th overall pick in the NFL draft going to the Tennessee Titans. Mariota gets another weapon, which is helpful. It's aside from Delaney Walker, he finally has someone to throw the ball to.
I didn't see that on any mock draft, and
I didn't either.
probably looked at a dozen of them.
I actually had one person comment on my mock draft today.
Right.
And he was talking about how he was questioning Corey Davis. And I was like, well, he is injured right now, and that could be a factor. He also didn't play in a Power 5 conference. That's also an issue, but he does have a lot of potential.
Yeah, I mean, Corey Davis is a lights-out wide receiver, but my concern is that he played his football at Western Michigan. How many times do you see the guys from the smaller conference schools that have amazing numbers and really fast speed, then all of a sudden get shut down at the next level because they're not used to playing consistent, strong defensive backs and safeties?
It's kind of like a needle in the haystack if you think about it.
Right. I mean, Corey Davis, 6'3", 200-some pounds, a very strong, athletic guy, but I'm going to be very curious. I'm going to be very curious to see what he does at the next level with a team like Tennessee, who is going to look to put a lot of pressure on him early on in his career to succeed at an early age.
So the Jets are up next, and then I get to say these words out of my mouth for the first time. The Los Angeles Chargers.
The what?
Will be up sixth.
It just feels. I feel like I just feel dirty.
Too many
saying
teams
something
in
like
Los
that.
Angeles.
There's way too many teams, and none of them are good either. So that's the honest truth about this. So looking at the Jets now, let's move on from Corey Davis. Let's look at the New York Jets. Do the New York Jets go in the quarterback battle? Because we don't have no clue what's going on. But they've taken a quarterback the last 3 years between the 2nd and 4th rounds. I mean, they've got Christian Hackenberg on their team. They spent a 2nd-round draft pick on Christian Hackenberg last year, for God's sakes. Like, is another quarterback going to solve the problems?
No, it's not. They have to at least test the waters with Hackenberg or with Bryce Petty, who showed a little bit of upside last year. You have to either find a target for that offense in O.J. Howard, or you have to fill some hole on the defense. And the best player to get right now would probably be either O.J. Howard or Jamal Adams.
Here's the thing. The Jets have obviously proven that they can't draft quarterbacks.
Right.
So it's almost
So why
like,
bother with one?
Take the bullet out of the chamber and let them shoot BBs. Because, and my point is, go somewhere else. Try your hand at somewhere else. Because if you're going to keep drafting quarterbacks and you're not hitting on any of them, then maybe you should stay away from that.
Yeah, because let's look at it. The last good quarterback that they picked was Mark Sanchez, and he only had.
Was he good?
Well, yeah,
He
right.
led them to a couple of AFC
True.
championships. I mean, you don't have to be good to lead your team to success.
I mean, Trent Dilfer knows that all too well.
Look at Tim Tebow.
Also very
I'm
true.
a Tebow
What a
fan,
playoff game.
but he did win a playoff game. You have to remember that.
I love Tim Tebow. We talked about him on the Morning Brew this morning. I don't know. But yeah, I do agree with you on this one, though, that there certainly is a lot of question marks for the New York Jets as a whole. Their top needs, of course, they are kind of listing them as the quarterbacks, offensive line as well, too. They got rid of Nick Mangold in the offseason. They let a lot of guys walk Brandon Marshall now plays for the New York Giants. So, I mean, there's a lot of needs for this Jets team as a whole on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, let's be honest. Anybody who's picking in the top 6, 8, 9, they're picking there because, unless they acquire those picks via trade, because they were bad and because they have a lot of holes to fill. So it's really no surprise. I mean, but when you look at the Jets, I mean, maybe defensive line. Other than that, where are they really strong? Like, where do you look at the Jets? Yeah,
I think they
they're
have a decent
solid
kicker.
there.
I don't remember, honestly.
Forte had a good year last year, but he is getting up there.
He's getting long in the
Powell
tooth.
was decent, so I don't feel like a running back.
But those guys aren't going to take the games away from your, like, you're not going to give the ball to Matt Forte 30 times a game like you used to if you were the Chicago Bears. I mean, Matt Forte, that was the only time that I was semi-ish ever concerned as a Packer fan is when we played the Bears, is because I knew that Matt Forte could go for 250 and 4 touchdowns if he wanted to, and if Jay Cutler was smart enough to get him the ball consistently. Now, this is not the same Matt Forte. When this deal first took place last year with Forte going to the Jets, I was like, well, it's damaged goods. He's not going to be the same Matt Forte that we, have come to know and love and fear as Packer fans or, NFL fans as a whole. New York, you've got a lot of issues you got to figure out. If you are just joining us, the top 5 is out. Myles Garrett, Mitch Trubisky, surprise, surprise, Solomon Thomas, Leonard Fournette, and Corey Davis going 1 through 5.
And if you're just joining us, right, Trubisky, a Bear, as the Bears trade up 1 spot and then give up a 3rd rounder and another pick.
A 3rd rounder and a 4th rounder and another pick next year. Jeez. And a 3rd rounder and the following year after that, apparently. Not... And I think they sold their water boy, and I think that it's now going to be the Chicago Trubiskys as well, too. Like, they've just completely changed the name and they've just completely changed it all, I guess. I don't know what to say about this, honestly. That's going to be one of those picks where you're going to have to sit here for a couple of months and be like, did that really happen? Like, Bear fans, I've already seen reports, Bear fans are livid.
Oh, they should
just
be.
Completely beside themselves.
They should be. There's no reason why, if you're any fan of any team, take the name out. Call it the Steelers. Call it the Broncos. Call it the Lions. If that's your team and you trade up 1 spot and give up a lot to pick a player that the team ahead of you wasn't going to take in the first place, and even if they would have traded to someone else, Trubisky's not that good.
Right. Exactly. I mean, do you see like the New York Jets? Like, I mean, not just stepping away from the Jets for a minute though, like, with all this chaos taking place in the first 5 picks, where do the running backs like Christian McCaffrey fall? Where does it looks like Jamal Adams here too from LSU is answering his phone right now, so that might be the pick that the Jets end up going for, which I think would be a smart pick. Yeah. To see, I mean, as we mentioned,
he's the best guy on the board right now.
Right, exactly. This isn't the old Jets where you had Revis Island on your team, like the times that the Jets were semi-decent for a little while, which I know has been a very long time. Anybody, honestly, aside from maybe, I mean, yeah, there's no one position that you can look at the Jets and say, yep, they don't need this position. Everybody's available. They should all come to New York.
Yeah, and you ask about McCaffrey. A lot of people see him going to Carolina.
Yeah, that's been the big talk.
And I see him anywhere from 8 to 16, depending on if Carolina changes their mind, he could slide all the way down and maybe wind up with Indianapolis could use a running back. Who knows? But it might be Carolina.
Well, they can. Indianapolis does definitely need one, that's for sure. Checking the comments on Facebook, you guys have been amazing so far. Yeah, Patrick saying, yuck. All of the Burke brothers are here. Tom, Trevor, and Tanner are all commenting and hanging out and making it a party, to say the least. Apparently, I just got a report here from Ian Rappaport. The Browns are trying to trade for Kirk Cousins.
Oh,
really?
Because why not?
Why not?
Why not?
This draft is just getting crazier and crazier.
And this is a good thing why we're going live, because this is why we can hopefully bring it to you all
live
and in person.
Apparently, Cleveland's looking at it and going, we tried a former Washington quarterback last year. Why not try it again? Difference is, I think, obviously, Kirk Cousins, a little different type of a player.
Right.
And a disgruntled player, unhappy in Washington because he got tagged again, and he wants a long-term deal. He's been unable to get it. It would be interesting. I'd love to see Cleveland. They'd obviously probably have to trade the 12 pick to do it.
That's a fair trade, I feel like. And I had even heard rumors this afternoon about teams like San Francisco trading their 2nd overall pick for Kirk Cousins. That was the most recent
for
rumor.
A while, but
right.
just because of the fact that Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins got that great relationship.
Exactly, and that's why I thought so many folks were going to go for it. The Jets pick is officially in. waiting to get official confirmation on who it is. They did take Jamal Adams for sure, so we did see that. That makes a lot of sense. Helps fill the holes that they have defensively a little bit, but the Jets still have a very long night ahead of them, honestly.
And you know what? O.J. Howard now, we talked about it off the air. Who would be this year's Aaron Rodgers? Who would be the guy that a lot of people like that could slide down? Now maybe O.J. Howard slides down to Indianapolis at 15 or further.
Right.
Because there's not the next 7 or 8 teams don't really look at tight end as one of their top needs.
Yeah, I feel like if he does drop, I feel like he could still go 10 to Buffalo just because Charles Clay's been a decent tight end, but he has been inconsistent.
I can't help but laugh. They just flashed a stat on the TV that all of the Jets quarterbacks combined as starters are 2-13. That just makes me laugh.
At least they have 2 wins.
They've done something right. Maybe Jamal Adams can play quarterback as well too. Scott, you've been saying you wanted to say this, so I'll let you announce who's on the clock now, just so you have the privilege of saying it.
Oh yes. The Los Angeles Chargers, who will be playing in a 20,000 seat soccer stadium for the
I
next
love
2
it.
years.
They're playing at the Home Depot Center in LA, the home of the LA Galaxy right now. So shout out to the soccer fans and all that. But I mean, every game's probably going to be a sellout.
I would hope.
Absolutely, yeah.
Only 20,000 people. That's like the lower bowl of Lambeau Field, basically, is 20,000 people.
You figured that they would sell
If you're
out.
lucky.
If they don't, it just proves. See, here's the thing. LA is a bad sports market.
Right.
We know that.
Very true.
They've lost football teams in the past. The NFL had this ridiculous crusade. We have to have a team in LA. It's the second largest market. I don't know if you've looked at your revenue as a league, but I don't think it was hurting. I don't think you were hurting not having a team in LA. They had teams. They lost them. We'll find out, but Dodger fans come at the second inning and leave in the 6th. Nobody cares about the Clippers, even though they've been good. The Lakers are only a thing when they're winning because Jack Nicholson and other celebrities hang out. It's not a sports town.
Right, exactly.
Yet they felt the need to have to force not 1, but 2 teams in the LA market.
And if you look at the 2 teams they put there, they put a Rams team that has potential, but they're not going to be a playoff team for probably at least 4 or 5 years. And then you look at the Chargers, who are on a decline, and they have the potential to be a good team. They just play in possibly the best division in football.
With
That
an
is true.
aging quarterback who, again, had a great year last year, don't get me wrong, but how much life does Phillip Rivers have left in that?
Well, and that's the thing, too. Phillip Rivers is going to have to make some sort of an adjustment to mentor sooner rather than later. We are joined by our 4th and final man on the panel this morning, Barry
Finally
Nelson.
here.
This evening, not this morning. I don't know what time it is. I've been up since 5. But anyway, hi, Barry. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing well. Barry Nelson, for those that don't know, co-host of Inside the Park here on the Brew Sports Network with Ryan Thies on Monday evenings.
College road trip as
College
well.
road trip as
We've
well.
Gone
Just a
down.
general
We've
nice
gone.
guy.
We've gone down this. We've gone down this road a couple times.
You have. You and Ryan did this for the national
Oh, my
championship. And it was
goodness.
very successful. But
By the way, let me just say this.
Please
I just
do.
thought of this, Baxter. Why don't you just run this show all the way through the morning show? Like, just
I might as well.
Let's make it a marathon.
I think Facebook only lets you stream 4 hours consecutively at a time. So, I mean, granted, I could restart the stream, go and pee, come back, pour some
Yeah,
coffee, get after it. Thankfully, there's only 1 round tonight. It's not like the draft is going to go through all 7 rounds tonight. That would have been a conversation to do. I don't think anybody else would have been doing something like this had that been the case, but certainly would have been interesting.
I would have.
To say
I
the
got the
least.
day off tomorrow.
Oh, well, there you go.
So there we
You
go.
want to
I
host
could-
the morning brew for me tomorrow? I'm going to be a little tired.
No, I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be in bed. So
Rightfully
sorry.
so. You're a smart man. I don't blame you. But, Barry, you've been hanging out offsite from a little bit. Can you give us a little bit of your reaction fast to the first 6 picks here so far?
When I heard the Mitch Trubisky pick, I was just like, all right, thank God the Bears are going to suck for the next 5-6 years
True.
again. So Packers have nothing to worry about. I was just floored that they actually took Trubisky and they mortgaged. They gave up 3 picks just to move up 1.
I'm
it
still
was just
completely blown away by that.
Yeah, and there was no surprise with me for Leonard Fournette and Myles Garrett. There was really no surprise. Corey Davis, kind of a reach, but I guess from all that we've seen and all that we've heard, the Titans were actually trolling what the Rams wanted. And the Rams apparently were very high on Corey Davis, so they just decided, hey, we're going to take Corey Davis instead of you guys.
Boy, they just can't. They must. And he's gone. Jeff Fisher's gone. You don't
Right.
have to keep hating on him. I know. I know there's still some heat in Nashville over Jeff Fisher, but he's not in L.A. anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
and to see that Cleveland might pick up Kirk Cousins or wants to pick up Kirk Cousins. It's about time Cleveland gets a decent quarterback, and Kirk Cousins is a consistent quarterback at least.
Well, they had Brian Sipe once.
Yeah,
They
right?
also had Bernie Kosar,
They did,
so Bernie
They also
Kosar.
had Johnny Manziel.
Wait a minute. No, that's not. That is very true. I'm looking at some of the comments here on Facebook, and from some folks are saying, Ryan saying that honestly, that what the for Kirk Cousins potentially getting picked up by the Browns is going to be better than what anybody else the Browns might toot out this year, honestly. Maybe it's Deshaun Watson, but at the same time, we're coming up to pick 7 here so far, still waiting for the Chargers to officially announce who they're going to take. I've heard they're saying O.J. Howard, a couple others possibly could be that pick.
Makes sense. You need an heir apparent to Antonio Gates.
But they do have Hunter Henry, who did play pretty well last year when he was healthy.
He did, but he's no O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard is a man among boys when it came to LSU. So I don't know. I think O.J. Howard would be a good pick, but I can also see that I can also see some other picks going here.
I feel like the pick here could be Malik Hooker, just because they haven't really filled that safety hole since Eric Weddle left them.
By the way, I'm looking at Jamal Adams. I'm sorry, and he's going to New York. And when I look at him out of the corner of my eye, he looks like A-Rod. So he should fit right in.
He does kind of a little bit now that you're saying that. Didn't even wear a tie for the draft either.
Stylish.
Yeah. Right?
Business casual.
Ezekiel Elliott last year forgot half his suit, so I understand.
Did you see
that.
the jacket Deshaun Kaiser was wearing?
I have not.
You got to see the inside of that jacket.
Is it made out of Kaiser rolls?
No, but it's legendary.
Oh, I did have a Kaiser roll for dinner. It was wonderful. For those that were curious what I had for dinner, I just wanted to let you all know that. But we are going to be joined by a bunch of our different Brew Sports correspondents here over the next hour and a half or so. So they'll be joining us via the hangouts that we've got going on here. But the Chargers pick apparently is in, according to ESPN, their top picks are wide receiver, offensive lineman, and defensive back, or the needs rather. But with Corey Davis going off the board already, you have to wonder who this pick may end up being. I do agree, though, Phillip Rivers, they need to address the backup situation for him at some point. Who's the future? You also have to look at the fact that the running game has been less than subpar recently as well, too. Melvin Gordon, I know, was they thought was the answer last year, but
they got Danny Woodhead too.
Well, Danny Woodhead though has been injured,
inconsistent
right?
With the injuries.
That's what I worry about a lot, honestly, with Danny Woodhead.
And he is getting up there.
I could see Mike Williams going here. They need another wide receiver. I could see it.
Yeah, especially with Jamal. I'm sorry, Jamal. With Keenan Allen getting hurt last year, he was off to a good start. We don't know how he's going to respond from the injuries. Melvin Gordon had a bounce back season, but I think receivers definitely a need here too.
What do you make of the craziness though with LA moving back though? The LA Chargers, as it were. Leaving San Diego. I know some of you have had mixed emotions about it on other shows on Brew Sports though, but the Chargers moving from San Diego saying no, we never wanted them to leave, but they couldn't agree on things. But what did you make of it?
First of all, I feel bad for the city of San Diego because I think by and large they supported that team there, and it just seems like they were fit. It also seems like the NFL did everything they could to block the Raiders from going back to L.A., and San Diego ends up moving there, and then the Raiders now going to Las Vegas. But it feels like, I thought it was going to be so weird to see the Rams and the Raiders both move to L.A., then leave L.A., and then come back. And that's what I thought we were going to see. But for some reason, the NFL didn't want the Raiders there, but we're okay with San Diego.
And we do have official confirmation Mike Williams is the selection, so they have a wide receiver. Yeah. So that makes total sense to me. Carolina on the board right now. We'll get to that in just a moment. The Mike Williams pick, it seems like we're all in favor of that. 5-11 for San Diego or LA rather.
But you know
this year.
It was a weird 5-11 because they had.
That's true.
They really could have won.
They were the last in their division too, which is. But let's be honest. So the AFC West last year was stacked through and through.
And will be again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the best divisions in football, I think, for the next 5 to 6 years, honestly.
Well, when you got quarterbacks like Derek Carr and you have Andy Reid being the coach in Kansas City, and Denver is. They're always wheeling and dealing defensively. They're going to be good again, especially with Von Miller there. It's going to be a tough. It's going to be tough. So I think they needed to address it. I think they addressed a need with Mike Williams. I think San Diego's. I said San Diego.
I know. I've already said it once too. I feel
Los
like
Angeles.
Take a drink.
Absolutely. If we're saying San Diego, suck up.
Every time,
but I think they addressed a need, and I think Phillip Rivers is going to be so happy that he's going to have such a big target, and you can see the emotion on Mike Williams' face when he got announced, and going across the country. He's from South Carolina. it's going to be a little bit of a culture shock, but I think he's going to do just fine.
I agree with you on that one for sure.
So now with Carolina, do they go McCaffrey? Do they go Jonathan Allen? Do they grab? Do they go with Hooker? I mean, because I know that you say they have a need at running back, or they say it, but I think they have a bigger need at.
They just have a weird situation at running back.
Yeah,
if you think about it, because
Jonathan Stewart
And
Jonathan
Cam Newton.
Stewart-
Cam Newton is technically a
when he's
second
healthy,
running back.
yeah, when Jonathan Stewart's healthy, he puts up great numbers. And you look at Cameron Artis-Payne, he's basically another Jonathan Stewart.
I think he's the running back of the future there.
Yeah,
But
you look at when he played last year, he put up solid numbers. It's just a surprise that they would try and attract a running back in the draft. But, I mean, it's been crazy so far, so who knows what's going to happen.
Right.
next.
A couple of comments on Facebook. Timothy says, "Holy buckets, Batman! I love Mike Williams, so don't know how I feel about him."
Well, Tim is a Clemson fan.
That's true. He did comment on this on the post
So he's
earlier
probably
about that.
hoping that Watson goes to Cleveland.
Right,
coming
and
up.
Tanner and many others reporting too that the Chargers did a secret workout with Mike Williams. I mean, what do you classify as a secret workout? You go to a park and throw a football around in hoodies? Like, what does that mean?
yeah.
I don't understand that.
I don't know.
honestly.
I was kind of interested to see that Gary and Conley, with all of his stuff going on. So there was a report that a team that's interested in taking him in the first round asked him to have a polygraph test, and apparently he passed.
A polygraph.
I'm
test.
wondering.
I've never heard of
I'm
that.
wondering.
That's a
You
little
know,
sketchy.
you think Packers looking for a corner. If I don't see it, but you never know. It'll be interesting to see if that's the case. Maybe it was the Cowboys.
I think it's a roll of the dice, though. Even if he's exonerated, even if he's cleared, I still think he's going to be available in the third round for a team. And I think he's going to be a steal for somebody if he's able.
You think he's going to drop that far?
I do. And if he truly didn't do the things he's accused of, let's remember that if he did these things, it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't, I think he's obviously going to be out a lot of money because, and it obviously hurts his reputation because, everybody, I can't remember the phrase, but they always say accusations are on the front page and exonerations are on the back page. Everybody will always remember what he was accused of if, in fact, he's innocent. And if he's guilty, he should go to jail for a long time.
Yeah, just look at Larry Tunsil last year. Guy was projected, I think he was supposed to go, I want to say 6th to Baltimore. Then
Top
the
10.
video comes up, and he drops all the way down to Miami.
What the heck was he thinking? Like, I mean,
there are rumors that it was a hack, but, that's something you shouldn't even
right,
take a video of.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Millennials, and I don't want to be the old man get off my lawn guy, but you guys understand technology more than anybody. What are you doing? Like, why are you letting somebody take that picture or take that video? What is wrong? Why would... What goes through some of these people's heads?
When people do drugs, they do tend to do things
well,
that
of course,
they
Right.
judgments and pairs.
We do have official confirmation, by the way, from one of our NFL correspondents, Greg Schwartz, saying that the Redskins have officially shut down Kirk Cousins' trade rumors.
Oh.
So it sounds like Cleveland is hot out of luck one more time.
Panther selection is
Panther
in.
selection is in. I'm curious to see who they have. We have the Bengals and the Bills coming up right after that. And of course, I know we're never going to hear the end of it once we hear folks. Once the Bills make the selection, I know Tanner's going to have a thing or two to say. I know Christian Heimel's going to be joining us here in a little while too. Ryan Solomon and a whole host
They
of
do
others.
make it Christian McCaffrey. It's official.
There they go. So Christian McCaffrey is a Carolina Panther, and the information yesterday from Adam Schefter is so far been absolutely true. He said 2 running backs are going to go in the top 10, and so far we have seen 2 go in the top 10. So.
Well, okay. Fine enough. Now they have 3 capable running backs.
Right.
I guess you can never have enough of them, I guess. Because let's face it, Stewart's a guy who's had some injuries, and he's not getting any younger either, so fine. I thought there were other needs that could have been filled at that spot, but...
Do you think the reason they picked McCaffrey is just because they don't want to have another Jonathan Stewart? They want to have that guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield, be
Sure.
that dynamic playmaker?
Sure, you need that the yin and the yang and a change of pace, and I
Right.
think they got that.
And
Right,
even if
exactly.
he doesn't become a big player at running back, he's also a great returner, so he can definitely help them out there.
Yeah, the comments on Facebook here at least are all very positive. Michael says he thinks it's a great pick by Carolina. Timothy also agrees. Patrick also letting us know the pick is also officially in. We're waiting to hear, as you mentioned, the Bengals are on the clock next. The Bills fans, of course, Trevor, Tanner, Tom, they're all just fired up. They're saying now they want Lattimore to go to the Bills at number 10. O.J. Howard, another possibility. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see, obviously, who the Bills get to, and we know that we're going to have nothing but wall-to-wall coverage from our Bills fans once we finally find out who that is. I do want to say a hey to Mike as well, too. He says Cowboy Nation's on fire. So thanks for keeping an eye and tuning in for us today, Mike, as well, too. Trevor says he's actually a little surprised by the Panthers pick. Got to thinking they wanted Fournette instead, but I mean, Fournette going early to the Jaguars, as we mentioned, and now just Christian McCaffrey going to the Carolina Panthers. He comes from a family of winners. We know that. His father, Ed McCaffrey, longtime Denver Broncos wide receiver.
Yeah, and you know what? Fine, you could say I wanted Fournette. That's like the Packers when they pick at 29 could say, boy, I really wanted Garrett. You weren't going to get him. He wasn't there for them unless you were going to trade him. I mean, I think if you're looking for a running back, he's the second best running back in the draft.
Now this is interesting too. Greg on Facebook, he says he could see Jonathan Stewart being cut before camp.
It could, sure.
It's definitely a possibility.
That is. I mean, but do you want to put the weight of the world on a rookie running back? Not everybody's going to be Ezekiel Elliott.
Unless you put the weight on the world on Cameron Artis-Payne, who's a third-year back now.
That is also
true.
Or
maybe they could possibly trade one of them. You never know.
That is true.
So, after seeing McCaffrey drafted, do you guys see another running back going in the first round? I know a lot of people are saying Dalvin Cook could be that guy.
I really do. I mean, the thoughts about Joe Mixon, too, I know are just all over the place. A lot of people are saying his off-field issues are ultimately going to kill him, but people have also said if you look just at what he does on the field, he's a late first-round pick. The rumors of Green Bay, of course, continue to flourish around all over the place. I think that's total hogwash. I don't think that's going to happen. But Dalvin Cook,
I heard Kamara to the Packers.
Yep.
I think the Packers should not draft. Listen, they need a running back to shore up some depth. Sure, but let's talk Packers for a minute. All right?
Yeah, go right ahead. We got the time.
Here's the thing. So we had people debating. Do you take Watt or do you take a cornerback? Maybe the kid from Colorado or the kid from USC. I like Watt. Here's the thing. I think Watt's going to be a great player in 3 years. But I think there's going to be a period where they try to figure out where he plays. He'll probably be a two-down player. There's a small window, very small window for Aaron Rodgers now to win a championship. It's getting smaller, maybe 3 years that he's going to be in that elite rarefied air.
Right.
This defense costs them a championship again.
That is very true.
If you don't address defense in this draft in the first round, then it's time for Ted Thompson to move on because – I've been, if anybody who's known me through my career, I've been a Ted Thompson supporter from day one.
True.
But if you draft a running back and you allow this defense to cost you a championship again, then you're not doing your job as a general manager.
I completely agree.
I don't care what what your metric is or what your draft board looks like or what formula you use to draft. If you're not addressing the defense, then it's time you should just walk out of the war room now and hand the keys to somebody else. Give it to Elliott Wolf and say, I'm done because I'm just checking in. I don't have time. I don't want to devote the time to be a general manager.
Right.
If you're going to phone it in, then walk out of the war room right now and hand the keys over to someone else.
That makes total sense to me. Do you have any rebuttal to that at all? We do have Tanner Burke who will join us in just a hot moment.
What do you guys say, Barrett?
Oh, my goodness. You can't beat a guy's track record. That being said, I was never a big Ted Thompson fan. I never have been of the draft and develop. But I also have seen people and teams like Washington and Dan Snyder take free agents like Deion Sanders, like Bruce Smith in the twilight of their career and absolutely miss on those.
And Barry, let me just say this too. I don't have a problem with even the draft and development style. But here's the thing. In the last 4 years, the drafts that Ted Thompson have put together haven't been as good as in the beginning. And I think he's lost guys like McKenzie, some real good Chiefs he had in that war room with him.
Well, the thing is that they have people that give him advice. And even Elliott Wolf said, we go into his office and we can give him all the advice we want. And we can give him all the tools and tangibles. But really, it's his decision. And realistically, if he's not making that decision that these guys think that he should make, well, where is he? What good is he? So I think if he's surrounding himself with these people, they're there for a reason.
Absolutely.
And if he's not listening to them, what the hell are they doing there?
That is a very good point. Cincinnati's pick is officially in. We'll get to that here in just a moment.
And I didn't mean to go off on a tangent.
No, I'm glad you did.
But I'm just saying from somebody in my shoes, probably from the opposite end of the spectrum, Barry, is that I liked what Ted Thompson had been doing.
I do too. I'm not a big fan of his personality, but I do like the fact that he does do some good things here and there. He's missed on a lot of draft picks, but who hasn't?
Sure.
But he's hit
Everybody's
on a couple.
human.
Yeah, he's hit on a couple of them too. I mean, he was the one that actually said, "I'm taking Rodgers," and all the coaches were just like, "I don't know,"
Right.
but he
Right.
took him anyway.
Right.
So you got to give him credit for that, and moving up to get Clay Matthews and stuff like that. But like Justin Harrell and guys like that is just.
Well, and here's the thing: I'm not Mel Kiper, and
You don't have the hair for it.
No, I don't. And you
Actually, you kind of do.
Well,
it's
a
not
little
slick.
bit.
Got to get a little longer.
but we're not going to sit here and pretend to have a GM's mindset. No. But any casual follower of this sport knows the Packers defense was abysmal, and it's costing them a chance to win a ring. So if it doesn't get addressed, whether it would have been via free agency or if it's not addressed through this draft, then something is definitely wrong with the mechanism that's running that front office.
No, I agree.
I completely agree with you on that one, too. No official word still on Cincinnati's pick yet. I'm waiting for that to come in. As soon as we get Cincinnati's pick, we are going to get Tanner Burke on the line with us here. He is hanging out waiting for us.
He's waiting. He's not waiting for the Bengals. He's waiting for the Bills.
I know he's not. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm waiting for Cincinnati to figure their
Come
stuff
on,
out.
put him on. He needs to come on and talk
I
to us about the
suppose
Bengals.
so.
And there's probably more people in his household that care about the Buffalo draft than in northern New York.
I'm waiting for his brothers to come up behind him as soon as the pick goes and throw
Right,
throw
exactly. Be
confetti.
like, hey! Yeah, so we'll get to Tanner here in just a moment. He left the screen, but apparently he's going to come back.
There he is.
Tanner, are you there, sir?
I'm here. What's going on?
Oh, my gosh. You're live, Tanner. Welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm live. What? What is going on? Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Phenomenal. It's
Good
wonderful
seeing
to
you,
see you.
Tanner.
The Bengals do officially select John Ross, by the way.
wow.
University of
That's
Washington.
kind of a
That's
strong.
kind of a reach.
So some speed to maybe accompany A.J. Green as well, too. But we don't care about that. Tanner, who are the Buffalo Bills going to choose?
Well, here's the deal. It's been an exciting draft so far, of course, with San Francisco putting down Chicago, possibly setting up a bluff, ultimately forcing Chicago to pick up Trubisky at number 2, giving up ultimately a 3rd and 4th round pick this year, along with a 2018 3rd round pick as well, just for one spot. Fournette and McCaffrey both gone in the top 10. Ridiculous. I know everybody who has heard anything that I have said in the past, running backs going in the first round is ridiculous. The 2 of them going in the top 10, just blowing me out of the water. I don't know what to think here. Now, here's the deal with the Bills. I wouldn't be surprised if they do ultimately trade down or move down in the draft. There are a lot of guys on the board that they could ultimately pick. You got O.J. Howard, a tight end out of Alabama, who would be great. If they do move down, he will probably not be there. But I think right now what we're looking at is the Bills need help on the in the defensive back section of their game. So obviously you got Marlon Humphrey, a cornerback out of Alabama. Deshaun Watson could help out as a quarterback at Clemson if they did decide to go to the quarterback route. He's a mobile guy. He can sit behind Tyrod Taylor for a year or two, figure out whether or not they want to keep Taylor. And then, of course, you got 2 guys that I got an eye
Tanner.
on right now. I know a couple of my friends do as well. Malik Hooker,
Tanner, we got
safety out of Ohio State, and Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback out of
He's
Ohio
not
State.
listening
Tanner,
to
I
us.
love you, but I got to interrupt you. The Bills traded their pick to the Chiefs.
That's what I was saying. I'm trying to talk to you guys. I'm telling you right now. This is why it's a total possibility. They're going to move down. I can see it coming. I got 5 guys on my list right here, so I'm not surprised that they would do this. It's something that we had in our minds for a while.
So Tanner,
Unless there was a guy like Mitch Trubisky or something like that fell to us, but I wasn't surprised that
He's
it happened.
supposed to be working, isn't he?
do you think one of those 5 guys is going to be there at 27 now?
It's possible at that point if these guys are still on the board to move up if a couple of them fall off. So it is possible. I think moving down to 27 though, you're definitely they have one guy in mind that they know they can get there. Whether that is a Malik Hooker or a Marshawn Lattimore, I'm not really sure. But our biggest hole right now is on defense, and that is the defensive back. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go cornerback or safety that far down in the first round, but definitely an interesting move. And, of course, it's the first round of the NFL draft. A lot of excitement so far. I'm still trying to get over the fact that there are 2 running backs drafted in the top 10. Just utterly ridiculous.
Well, and
I was actually watching – and it was funny. I was watching ESPN's coverage, of course, because, ESPN, NFL, whatever. And I was listening to it while I was getting ready here, and Mel Kiper came out and said, 2 running backs gone in the top 10. He basically said it was just ridiculous, and he said you shouldn't even pick a running back in the first round. And I'm sitting over here like, hey, exactly. Hello. What are you doing? It doesn't make sense to me. So it's funny. It definitely shook the draft up immediately. And then Chicago picking Trubisky at 2. I mean, the whole draft is just a tire fire at the moment, but I love it. It's great. It's entertainment.
Well, Tanner, apparently the Bills did not acquire the 27th pick. They got the Kansas City Chiefs' first-round pick next year and a third this year, so a big move. They didn't give up too much, but they're out of the first round right now. So what do you make of that?
Tanner, do I see some tears in your eyes?
I think he's crying. He looks like he's crying.
I'm holding them back, Ian. I don't know what's going on. To be honest, the draft right now is exciting for everybody but Bills fans because we don't really know. Here's the deal: we do not have a lot of picks in this draft. That
you only had 7 coming in.
Yeah, so
just added another one.
I wasn't surprised to see them trade down, but to trade out of the first round completely, what are you doing? I mean, come on, give me something. Give me just a snack, just a little snack that I can just take and just taste for today. I waited months, years for this draft, and
Really?
I get nothing.
Unfortunately, that's just the Buffalo way. I feel like it. So that's.
Here's the deal, though. As a Bills fan, I have a little bit of optimism that somehow we will work our way back into the first round draft and possibly pick somebody that we want. So who knows? Unless they find a Russell Wilson in round 3 or a Tom Brady in 5.
Or
I'm
7.
going to cross my fingers and hope for the best.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck with that. So the Chiefs now with that pick, linebacker, quarterback, their top 2 needs. Maybe quarterback. Did they make this trade to get a quarterback?
Well, that's the
Deshaun
rumors right now is that Deshaun Watson might be that heir apparent to Alex Smith. I mean, that's a good guy to learn from to an extent.
Andy Reid, too, being that quarterback's coach, you got to think that he's getting a perennial Pro Bowler if he pans out, and Andy Reid is that guy to develop him. I mean, you talk about a guy that's worked with the Brett Favres and the Donovan McNabbs and now Alex Smith, and he's got a proven track record. So you got to believe that if they do pick Deshaun Watson, Watson at least gets to sit for a year, maybe even 2, behind Alex Smith or whenever Alex Smith gets hurt, because I'm bound to determine that he's going to get hurt. But I think that would be a great pick for them. Linebacker, I don't know. You go with the Reuben Foster here, maybe?
It is possible. We did get official confirmation, Tanner, so you can come off the ledge. The Bills will pick at 27 now. So
now they did pick. Yep.
They did make it move around.
I can see the light, Baxter. I can see the light. And it feels good, baby. Feels good.
So,
First round excitement coming your way.
And
I think it's safe to say I'll be back on in around 27.
Right, exactly.
When everybody's
when we're off the air, right?
Yeah.
Said and done.
We're all home. We'll be sleeping. Tanner's going to find a way to hack the feed. Be like, they got this person. It sounds like Patrick Mahomes is going to KC. Is what I'm seeing.
It's interesting.
You like that? I love it.
I do too.
Good for Patrick Mahomes.
I feel like either
Going to
quarterback
Kansas
they
City.
go here is a good pick. I had them going with Watson originally because you look at either quarterback they pick, it's a win-win because Alex Smith's still going to be their quarterback for at least another year or 2. You get 2 guys that don't need to play right away. They need to have that backup experience for a year or 2. Learn from Alex Smith, a guy who doesn't turn the ball over that much, and you have 2 quarterbacks that turn the ball over a lot. So I feel like getting one of these guys, having them be behind Smith for at least a year is going to help out Kansas City in the long run.
And Andy Reid could look at it, too, because he is the mentor, the quarterback mentor. Maybe Mahomes fits that skill set that he's looking for.
Oh, yeah. And
I mean, he reminds people so much of Brett Favre, obviously.
Well, you look at Deshaun Watson. He's kind of like a Donovan McNabb, and who knows? But Donovan McNabb was more of a pocket passer, and Watson seems like he's more of a little bit more of like a Cam Newton type. Mahomes is more of a pocket passer.
And it looks like the pick is in. Kansas City goes with Texas Tech quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love it. The Saints are on the clock now, but we'll get to that in a moment.
We were saying how Andy Reid is a good quarterback groomer, and I think with Patrick Mahomes under Andy Reid, Alex Smith being able to sit for a year, maybe 2, that's just going to be a great opportunity for Mahomes to really become what hopefully Kansas City wants them to become. And I know there's a couple of people out there from our network that are really happy about Patrick Mahomes getting
I think he's a good
picked.
player, but I feel like at the same time, I feel like it's a bit of a reach for him personally.
Well, I think when you look at Mahomes, Watson, and Kaiser, there's an old saying I like to use. There's a lot of different ways to make a chili. That doesn't mean it's bad. Maybe you use beans, maybe you like noodles, maybe you like chicken. These three quarterbacks are very close when you grade them out.
I've ever heard
Chicken
that
and chili?
before.
White
chicken
It's
chili?
pretty good.
So you have a pocket
Amazing.
passer,
Okay.
you have a guy who's more of a hybrid, and you have a guy who's better out of the pocket. So it all depends on what you want for your offense. That doesn't mean that either player is bad. It just means some players are better fits for whatever scheme you're looking to run here.
Yeah.
So when you get to these picks, like, okay, they're all good, but this guy fits what we want to do better.
Yeah, and if you look at Kansas City, looking at Alex Smith, he's not the best passing quarterback. I feel like we all agree on that one. He's a quarterback he'll get you 200 yards a game. He'll make sure he doesn't turn the ball over. But they want someone that can have a quarterback dominate the fourth quarter. And looking at getting Mahomes, he had a great career at Texas Tech. He's a guy that puts up big numbers. And having him wait a year or two is going to benefit them. And he's going to give Kansas City what they want.
Now, here's the big thing for me in all of this, though, too. Looking at the whole Patrick Mahomes thing, quarterback this high up in the draft to make him sit for 4 years or 3
I feel
years.
like
Max 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd say
I think
2 years
max
because
2
you
years.
look at Oxmith. I believe he did get concussion last year, so I feel like that's something you have to look at. The fact that concussions are becoming a huge thing in the NFL, so you have to make sure that you get someone that just to know that your franchise is going to be good. If let's say Smith gets injured, gets another concussion next year, because you get a couple concussions and suddenly you have to think about if you want to play the game again.
Josh on Facebook, Timothy actually on Facebook has a good point here. He says, I really hope Watson falls to a good team, which I'm really feeling that he will. I mean, 2 quarterbacks already gone thus far. The next man in line is Deshaun Watson, unless people think not. Maybe Deshaun Kaiser moves up.
Maybe Deshaun Watson goes to the Browns. Maybe Deshaun Watson goes to the Cardinals with Carson Palmer.
I think Watson goes to the Browns. Right?
We've also heard rumors, though, that New Orleans needs that future quarterback behind.
Yeah, but
Drew
they do
Brees.
have 2 picks, so I feel like
They do.
if they do address it, it'll be the 32nd pick.
That would make a lot of sense to me.
Especially if Deshaun Kaiser's on the board, I think they would address that with him. But
Either him or maybe a Nate Peterman.
True. Who do you see the Saints taking now? I mean,
They have to go defense. They need
Do you see a Marshawn Lattimore maybe?
I feel like
That could make a lot of sense.
I feel like
Why not?
that's
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
the
he's
pick
one of the
I
best.
had in the mock draft, so I
Okay.
feel like that's the guy that would go there. But I mean, we've all been wrong with the predictions in this draft, so who knows what they.
Well, I'm going to call it. I'm going to say Marshawn Lattimore, but
I'll go with you on that.
I think that would be a good pick. I think they need a defense for Drew Brees. Their defense was
I
absolutely
think a
porous
sleeper
last
pick
year.
here could honestly be O.J. Howard, because you look at
Jimmy Graham. They haven't had a tight end since
and
him.
you look at Colby Fleener, he was disappointing last year.
Oh yeah.
Well, they have their top 3 needs, though, I think, cornerback, safety, linebacker. So, again, as much as I agree that Howard's a great player, you got to, much like we talked about the Packers in addressing their needs.
Right.
Drew Brees' window also not getting any larger. It's
even smaller.
Correct. So, you got to get him a defense that's going to help support him.
Well, yeah, that's the big thing, too. I mean, I've been very vocal about this. New Orleans signing Adrian Peterson was an awful move. An awful move, career-wise, for Adrian Peterson, because he said he wanted to do 2 things. He wanted money, and he wanted to win a Super Bowl. And he's going to get 0 of that by signing with New
and
Orleans.
he's going
Plus,
to
he
lose
has to
carries
share.
to Ingram.
Yes, it's not like he's the better of the 2
Not
running
only
backs.
that, but
Mark
they're-
Ingram's a good running back.
They're a passing team.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't going to get a lot of carries anyway, even if
Right.
he was the main guy. So I mean, and he can't pass block. So when's he going to play?
And you look at the backfield now, you have 2 running backs that aren't known for catching the ball. So if anything, that's hurting Drew Brees.
That is a very good point, honestly. I mean,
And also they
I don't-
lost Brandon Cooks.
well, New Orleans has been just that weird story for me all offseason long, because this is a team that has fallen so far from glory. I mean, they won a Super Bowl less than a decade ago, and they've just been a mere shell of themselves ever since that point. I really am curious and hopeful that they do something positive with this pick.
One of the guys that people in New Orleans were looking at was Marlon Humphreys from Alabama. And they brought him in. They had some workouts. But that's because I don't think anybody thought Lattimore was going to be around.
Right.
Because if you look at most mocks, Lattimore's gone in the top 10 just about everywhere. So that's why, even though he might not have been somebody that was being talked about, I think because the way this thing's playing out, they're getting a gift. I think that there's a player dropping in their lap that they didn't think was going to be there.
Looking at some of the Facebook comments here too, Timothy saying, "I would like to see Watson go to the Texans now." That could make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Personally,
They need absolutely.
Tom Savage is not the answer.
If
Just
you
the
want-
honest
They said
truth
it.
about it.
They said if he's their quarterback, they win 3 games this year.
If Tom Savage is their quarterback, well, yeah. I mean, how good is Tom Savage?
And that's being generous.
And he's injury prone.
Well, their number one target ended up deciding to get a media job. I think Tony Romo was the guy that everybody thought would wind up in
Yeah, because
Houston.
if you look at the Texans, they're just one piece away from becoming a team that could compete for an AFC championship.
They got a
That
good
is that
defense.
quarterback.
They got a great receiver who's being underutilized.
DeAndre
Actually,
Hopkins,
2.
yeah.
If
They
you
have
Two
a
of them
solid
now, yeah,
running
with
game
Fuller.
now. They have a great offensive line.
I think Greg makes a phenomenal point on Facebook here. He says Patrick Mahomes to Tyreek Hill all day long. Just run the fly route down the sidelines, let Mahomes throw it 80 yards in the air, and let Tyreek Hill just whoosh.
Laser arm to fast.
Ironically, right before our eyes, over the course of the last 18 months, Kansas City is becoming an exciting team to watch.
They are.
They really weren't.
They were such a boring team.
Right.
It was give
Such
to
a boring
Jamal
team.
Charles off the right side, give to Jamal Charles up the middle. Let's pass the screen pass to Jamal Charles. That's all it was. And
Right.
now they're opening it up a little bit, and I think Andy Reid's really, really loving it.
I agree with you on that one, too. I mean, Kansas City has put together the pieces defensively with Tom Bahali and some of the other great gentlemen that they have on that defense. Eric Berry, who's recovered from his injuries and sickness as well, too. Kansas City, the hard part about any successful team in the AFC is that how are they going to get past New England? And I think Kansas City could have made an argument for that, but they still, I feel like, are missing that 1 or 2 dynamic players that can ultimately hop over whatever Tom Brady's voodoo gypsy magic is that he has no matter what time he steps on the field. That's the big thing about it. Besides of however inflated his balls are not, like that's the honest truth about it, though. Is like who
Sounds
is
like a
going to
So
be?
you're
personal
saying
problem.
that's why they won the Super Bowl is because the balls were.
I can neither confirm nor deny such allegations. I can never. I
I don't
cannot
think we
say
should be
that.
talking
Deflategate
about
2
anybody's balls on
coming
the air.
soon.
I don't know. I feel like we might lose our feet if we talk about balls for too long.
Well, the other thing the Patriots have, and take nothing away from Tom Brady,
Right.
but the way that system works. So they have this professional, come in here, be professional. They were able to get 2 professional, well-behaved seasons out of Randy Moss, for crying out loud. Come in here and do your thing. We have rules. We have a set of parameters. We have a culture of winning. But for the most part, I'm going to let you guys, this is what Belichick's saying, let you guys be men. I'm going to treat you like men. And we're going to go out there and work together, win a championship. And if we part ways after that, we part ways after that. And that system has worked. And it works, and people hate it because, yeah, they cheat, and yeah, they're grimy, and I'm not a Patriots fan, but you can't argue with the fact that they bring in guys that look like they're on their last leg or that they've had some bad breaks in other places, be it LeGarrette Blount, be it somewhere, and they go there and they just win.
So the Saints did officially take Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback
Boy,
out
are
of
we
Ohio
smart.
State.
Yeah,
I know.
smart.
Gosh. I heard there's 100 new positions open at ESPN. Maybe they could take one of us. No, we've got the better gig, let's be honest. Cleveland Browns, again, back on the clock. I mean, do we want to place bets on if it's going to be Deshaun Watson? I mean, I don't know what we're betting. I mean, just take a drink of our beer.
By the way, there was a drinking game I used to play when I'd watch the NFL
Me
draft.
too.
Yeah, see, I played a two
Anytime
of those.
Mel Kiper came across as a pretentious DB, we would take a drink. So we're
So
usually
you guys were drunk by the
pick five.
second
Drink
pick? I was going
a
to say the
lot.
second
Wow.
pick. Goodness sakes.
Good night. Goodness.
Wow. Marshawn Lattimore makes sense for that defense, especially because I believe they gave up the most passing yards in the league last year, at least in the NFC. I know they did. And they gave up a lot of long plays. And I'm hoping that that defense can get solidified because I like watching Drew Brees. I think he's that quarterback, for the little guy. He's 5'11". He's one of those guys that you just cheer for. And I'm hoping that that they can make one last run with him. Of course, I'm always hoping that the Packers make one more run too, because I get playoff tickets. So.
That's true. That
You know,
is true.
but you can't help but cheer for a guy like Drew Brees, and hopefully this helps him a little bit, and hopefully they can get some offense coming up at pick 32.
Quickly, I want to get to one of our correspondents on the Brew Sports Network, Brendan Menz. He is down in Kansas City. He is a Chiefs fan. Brendan,
got the jersey on.
Patrick Mahomes going to the Chiefs. A very good evening to you, Brendan. Your thoughts about the Chiefs selecting Mr. Mahomes?
It really was an interesting pick, and I was wondering tonight, would we see the Chiefs trade up into the mid to early first round to try to take either a Patrick Mahomes or a Deshaun Watson? I heard that as a definite possibility throughout the day, and needless to say, when I saw the Chiefs trade up to 10, I was thinking, I was getting excited thinking, all right, they're finally going to get a quarterback, and knew that this town was going to burn down if that didn't happen. So I was happy with the pick. I will say, though, with Mahomes, certainly not a perfect quarterback by any means, and there will be some questions coming in as to the system, though at the same time, Andy Reid, very good working with quarterbacks. And even though you think, okay, Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech, air raid, just chuck the ball, throw deep every time, it seems like. Not necessarily, meaning throws a lot of quick hitters and passes over the middle and stuff that fits in with the Chiefs offense. So given a year to develop over Alex Smith, and I think this will be a good pick for the Chiefs down the road.
Do you think that do you think Alex Smith is only one more year, or do you think maybe it's 2 years?
More year, and I can't say exactly what the organization may be thinking, but from a fan standpoint, there is most definitely a lot of angst concerning Alex Smith, as a lot of people have kind of resigned to the fact, okay, he's a pretty good quarterback. He'll get you to the playoffs. He'll not make mistakes, but he's not going to be that guy to be a hero when you need a 70-yard touchdown drive with a minute to go late in a game type of guy. So, and the fact that his cap figure is going to be pushing $20 million by 2018, I have to imagine that 2017 is going to be Smith's last year in a Chiefs uniform, and probably kind of resigned to the fact, okay, most likely Alex Smith will not be the guy to lead the Chiefs to the Super Bowl.
Right, and I agree with you on that one. Brendan, we actually got to let you run because the Texans and the Browns have traded picks, so now the Texans are on the clock.
It's watch.
So we got to run, but thanks for swinging by, Brendan. It's great to have you on quickly.
So here's something interesting. Most of the mocks had the Browns, if they would have kept this pick, going quarterback or going with Ross, who's gone. So now they're trading out of this pick. Mm-hmm. What gives?
Well, I think if they move down,
Cleveland's like, Mitch is gone. We have nothing left to live for.
I think if they move down to 25, and I can guarantee they're getting at least 2 more picks. They're solidifying this year's draft, and I think there's going to be a quarterback available at 25. I think that they have their eye on somebody. Maybe it wasn't Deshaun Watson. Maybe Kaiser, and maybe somebody else. But I think that they feel that they can get somebody later in the first round, maybe even early second round. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Texans gave up. But Bill O'Brien has to win this year. If Bill O'Brien doesn't win this year, he's gone. And with the talent that they have on offense, not with Lamar Miller and DeAndre Hopkins, not only that, but the defense that they have with Clowney and J.J. Watt and all their defensive backs, they've got to win, and I think this is a pick that Bill O'Brien wanted.
I really don't like Bill O'Brien.
Ever since Penn State, I actually give him credit for coming up.
It's not even that. So I'm a big avid watcher of Hard Knocks, and the year Houston was, he just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
I mean, when Vince Wilfork shows up to training camp in overalls, that only says so much about your franchise. That's really cool. I mean, Vince Wilfork is an awesome guy. So just to recap the craziness that has taken place recently, the Bills have moved to 27, courtesy of the Chiefs, and the Browns have moved up to or back to around to, I don't know how the lingo is, to 25. Down to.
Do we know what they're getting for that? I mean,
there hasn't been anything.
They've switched picks. I have yet to see what else they may be getting from that in their party. But Texans are on the clock right now. It sounds like the Browns are going all in Brock Osweiler. Jeff on Facebook also says, desperately want to see the Lions draft Riddick or Foster. Jeff is a big Lions fan. He'll be joining us a little bit later in the program once we get the Lions reaction.
I do want to make note to Tim's comment that seems like Texans are going to get Deshaun, and good for you, Tim, because you're going to get Deshaun Watson joining DeAndre Hopkins, 2 Clemson guys on the same team.
Yeah,
so if that does happen, congrats to you, Tim.
Right, exactly. We'll have to keep an eye officially what ends up taking place here. This has been an absolutely crazy opening time so far.
Listening on the way in, there are a lot of pundits and a couple of guys that I was listening to on the radio that said, "Oh, I don't think there's going to be too many trades in this first round." Because there's a lot of guys that are quality, and I don't think there's going to be a lot.
No, we've seen 3, right?
Yeah,
we've seen some pretty big trades, and especially I'm still floored by that Bears trade. I still can't get over that.
Yeah, I figured there were going to be a couple trades, but no one was expecting the trades to be with the teams that got involved.
All right.
Like, it's just crazy to see how this draft's
Yeah,
going.
we thought Cleveland might move up. We didn't think they'd move back.
Texans have officially selected Deshaun Watson, by the way. So there we go. The
Good for
rumors are
them.
true. Deshaun Watson officially saddling up down with the Houston Texans.
Now I know this is a draft show, but I just saw that the Milwaukee Bucks took a lead after being down 22.
I did hear that. There's a bar across the way from our studio, and we can hear the fans literally hooping and hollering across the
Unfortunately,
across
it's not
the way
Bucks
there.
in 6 this year, but you could change it to
Bucks
Bucks
in
win
seven.
6.
7, maybe. Yeah, if they end up pulling the victory.
Anyway,
out.
I just wanted to pull
Last
out
I
that.
just checked, they are down 3 with a minute and a half
82.
Thanks
Yeah,
a
a little
lot,
bit of joke here. Deshaun
Debbie
Watson.
Downer.
So talk to me
There's still
about
time for that.
There-
talk to
still
me about Deshaun Watson to DeAndre Hopkins. Is that going to be a realistic thing? Do you hand the keys to Deshaun Watson now and say, all right, go?
You have to, because the answer is not Osweiler. The answer is not Savage. Again, it's all about situation. It's all about being in the right place and the right fit.
True.
I think if Watson's somewhere else, he's probably got to sit and learn here. He's to me, he's the starter.
And I think he's proven that he's ready. I think if he gets the right coaching and he gets into camp right away and he learns that playbook and he stays injury free, I think he can be that guy. He said the number one place that he wanted to be was Houston. Houston got him. He's there. Well, now it's time to shine for the Houston Texans, and I think he's going to be able to do that. There's going to be obviously some growing pains, but I think he's going to be one of the most – I think he actually is the most NFL-ready quarterback, if you want to put it that way, certainly much more than Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I would agree. And you look at Tim's comments, he says, calling it now, Deshaun Watson gives Houston their first
I
Super
saw
Bowl.
that. I was about to bring that up.
Also says that it'll just be like Deshaun Watson to Mike Williams, unstoppable.
I'd like to think that Hopkins is better than Mike Williams, which is an even scarier thing to think about, honestly.
Again, though, I agree he's the most NFL-ready quarterback, but I still think we have to curb our enthusiasm and temper our expectations because we see it year in and year out. The NFL is a way different animal than, in this case, than ACC football and some of the other things. I think he's going to be fine. I think the only thing that's going to hurts young players sometimes, especially quarterbacks, is sometimes their ability to listen and want to learn and take direction.
And the ability, or not the ability, but the trying to do too much.
Right.
You know, he's going to – I don't want him to come in and try and think that everything's on his shoulders. He's got Lamar Miller in the backfield. He's got he's got that DeAndre Hopkins blanket
And
that
a
he can
good
go
defense,
to. And a
too.
good defense. So he doesn't have to do everything by himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how he matures in that system and how far along he can come in just 1 year. And he'll definitely compete for that quarterback job. I don't know if he'll necessarily get it week 1, but he'll be a starter by week 5. I can guarantee that.
So now, with Arizona on the clock, there's a few players that are out there. Reuben Foster's a guy that I would look at. Reddick, perhaps, maybe Malik Hooker, who's still – there's some great players. Now, again, to me, the best place to draft is anywhere from 13 to 20 because it means you're not terrible and you didn't have to draft. And it also means that some of these players that you didn't think were going to be there start to fall as some of the stuff sifts itself out.
Arizona's a very unique situation for me personally. I look at a team like Arizona, and I have to think that this team was a few plays away from going to.
You know, so now it's almost to, okay, so those guys are gone. There's no court. I mean, eventually you're going to have an heir apparent to Carson Palmer, but you're not going to draft him here. So unless you're trading down, you have to take one of these defensive guys.
The only offensive guy that I see them taking that would be high on their board would be O.J. Howard.
Right.
I don't see a wide receiver that's going to
Which,
be.
by the way, Howard I think would be a good fit.
It
I
would
agree.
be. It
It
would
be a
be.
good fit, but didn't they just sign Gresham this offseason to a multi-year deal?
But
You got Martellus Bennett and Lance Kendricks here,
Yeah.
Right.
you had Bennett and Gronkowski last year. So
the time they were both healthy together.
Yeah,
Like we need to do those dump off passes and have guys that are going to continue to get those hard fought yards on third down. And why not add a guy like O.J. Howard?
I just don't see.
I don't see it.
I don't see it.
See it.
I see them going defense on this pick, and Reuben Foster would be one, even with his off-field troubles or with the diluted sample. I see that, and I would think that they'd go either defensive line or linebacker.
Reuben Foster is going to make any NFL team immediately better. And I think the other question mark about, and I know we've gone an hour and 30 minutes without talking about him, Mr. Bill Peppers. We don't know where he's going to go at some point.
Into the second round.
I agree, and for two reasons. They alluded. I still think he's a man without a defined position, and again, a guy who could have a great NFL career. That's not what I'm saying, but maybe not a first.
This was that Cleveland was going to pick him up with their first pick in the second round. They were going to take Jabril Peppers at that point. But now that Cleveland has moved back so far, though, in the first round, does it make more sense, though, at this point to just go 2 defensive players in the first round? You get a dynamic athlete in Myles Garrett, and then you get a multi-positional player in Jabril Peppers later on, so people can't yell at you too much for saying, "Oh, you reached for Jabril Peppers." Like, hey, we're in the mid-20s now. You can't.
Yeah,
be
he's
that
not
mad
a
about
reach
us.
of 12. He's not a reach in the 20s. He's a reach of 12. But
Right.
At 20, what's 5, whatever it ends up being. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I find that a little surprising. Remember to keep giving us your comments as well, too. Checking over. Robert says LSU. Yes, going number 4. He said he's going to be a good one. He can't believe that Chicago got a quarterback as well, too. We're still a little
Not just a
dumbfounded
quarterback,
about
he
it.
says a great quarterback.
A great quarterback in Mitch Trubisky.
13 starts,
really?
and you call him
He
a great
said,
quarterback.
really?
I'm
somebody
pushing
said
it.
Chicago got a great quarterback, according to Robert on Facebook. Yeah, he said his Cards. Robert is an Arizona Cardinals fan, so he's excited to see what they do with this pick at 13. He says he really wishes that Mike Williams was still available at this point.
My brain hurts after hearing great quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Anyway,
That's true.
yeah. I would
And
have
2
thought,
running backs.
I would have thought 3 here. You could still see Deshaun Kaiser go.
Nate
Peterman. If
yeah.
Cleveland decides they're good, that's what they're going to do when they pick 25.
I mean, Pittsburgh has got to find the Ben Roethlisberger replacement at some point, too. I mean, could you see a Kaiser going to hang out with Pittsburgh for a couple of years?
I know a lot of people have been talking about someone surprising Josh Dobbs. And I heard that his draft stock has been rising a lot recently.
Tennessee
and
quarterback.
A lot of talks have been that Dobbs has gone to the Pittsburgh facility, so maybe
John Gruden's high on Josh Dobbs.
Comments coming, guys. We really appreciate it. Greg giving us the official word. Cleveland gets Houston first pick this year and first round pick next year for that swap with the Texans. So
it's not a bad trade for the Browns. It's also not a bad trade for the Texans either. I mean, Texans,
you get your potential starting quarterback. I mean, if that pans out for you, you're going to consider yourself the winner in that trade, I feel like.
And the Browns, if Deshaun Watson is successful, the Browns are going to pick lower first round anyway. So it's not like you're giving them the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick overall next year.
That is a good point. I'm sitting here looking also at some of the other comments. Nate saying that Chicago just became the new Cleveland with their Trubisky pick.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Robert also says he's apologizing, but he says, sorry, guys, he thinks that Trubisky's going to be a good quarterback.
Everybody's got their own opinion.
Let's just say, let's say you're right. Okay, we're wrong. Trubisky's going to be great. You could have got him at 3.
Right.
That's
San Francisco was not like going to go crazy. I mean, even if San Fran decided to go and was all of a sudden like, what if they had gone with Solomon Thomas, which I think they still ultimately
would have gone. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure San Francisco picked up their phone. John Lynch was just like, yeah, okay, no problem.
Absolutely.
Right. So, I mean, even if it's a matter of opinion and you end up being right and Trubisky ends up being good, you still gave up too much for a guy you would have gotten anyway.
And we just got word that Hassan Reddick did get taken by the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, that was one of the 3. We talked about it being Foster, maybe Hooker, or Reddick.
They said they wanted either Foster or Reddick, and they just decided to take Hassan Reddick. So
not a bad choice.
No, they went linebacker like they needed, and they need to shore up that defense as well. I mean, they got some great corners and a couple of good safeties. They needed linebacker, defensive line.
So now the Eagles are on the clock. They need a receiver, but the top 3 guys are gone. They like defense. They need a defensive end, and Derek Barnett's still there. But then there's also some other players who, again, are falling. Malik Hooker is falling. Reuben Foster. Do they make one of those guys their pick, or do they go off the board and let their hometown boo them?
You don't want to get booed.
You don't want to get booed on the steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum, that's for sure.
See, this is the thing with Philly. I feel like offensively, they've got the quarterback of the future in Carson Wentz. The running back situation is a little hot and heavy because they had 3 great running backs a couple of seasons ago, and then Chip Kelly left, and it all kind of blew up from there.
Well, Chip Kelly was
that was the issue, of course, too. This isn't the Eagles defensively are the shell of what they used to be when they had Donovan McNabb, of course. Then they had Philadelphia plays in a division that is going to be run by the Giants and by the Cowboys for the next decade or so. especially by the Cowboys with Dak Prescott
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, but
Cowboys more so than the Giants. The Giants are going to be dangerous this year, of course, with the addition of Brandon Marshall. Of course, they still have a very decent defense. Eli Manning, we know, is the Patriot killer, so if there's one team that can go to the Super Bowl and match up with New England, Eli's going to find a way to do it. Philadelphia right now, you got to find a way to just get into second place. You need to just find to be better than New York right now, and defensively, that's going to be one thing to do. Find guys that are going to put pressure on your divisional opponents, and let's not forget Washington's in this division as well, too. They're not horrible. I know they're not great, but they're not horrible either. They can cause problems, especially if Kirk Cousins is staying with the Redskins.
Yeah, as long as he's still there.
Right, which is make it sound like they put the kibosh on the potential trade rumors.
Apparently, Dave Bobke has a drinking game, too, every time we mention Chip Kelly drink.
All right, well, let's get him drunk.
That's one
Chip
time.
Kelly, Chip Kelly, Chip Kelly. There you go. Have 3 on.
Our
Someone's got to push the
producer,
buttons
Dave
over here,
Bobke.
Scott. I don't want to drink my entire beer quite yet. I'm still mad I grabbed the wrong beer. The Brew Sports Draft Show
mountains were
brought
not
to you
blue
by
for you,
Coors
Barry.
Lights. That's amazing. I really wish you would have done that. Too funny. We're going to be joined a little bit here by Dara Bittler as well, too, one of our NFL correspondents.
She's a big Kansas City fan,
She
isn't
is,
she?
but she's at a Broncos watch party right now.
Get ready for Ramcheck, huh?
So we'll have to see what ends up coming there too. But she'll give us the insight on the Kansas City Chiefs pick. She wants to comment about that. But because she is there in Denver as well, she's going to probably give us a little insight about that. And of course, you, the viewer, keep your comments rolling in as well too. We'd love to hear from you guys. It's been an amazing night thus far. Record views and numbers thus far as well too. So keep them coming. Philadelphia Eagles, of course, are on the block right now. That is Scott Wisniewski, Ian DeMars, Barry Nelson. I am Baxter Colburn. This is Brew Sports NFL Live's draft party. We are just having a ball, having a party, as it were, drinking some beer, talking about football. Doesn't get much better than this, gentlemen, that's for sure. But Philly, they should have their pick coming up here very shortly. And so after that, then it starts to get interesting. Then you go to the Colts, the Ravens, the Redskins, the Titans are again. There's some interesting picks coming up for some teams that are right in the middle of the pack usually, and that's why they're in the middle of the draft as well.
Yeah, and I don't know how long. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna make it to we see teams like the Packers and Seattle and that.
I mean, I got nowhere to be tonight, guys, so it's kind of up to you. I'm willing to stay on
Let's
as long
make
as
it a
we
long
want,
night,
so.
boys.
We got more beer in the fridge, so I mean, I'm completely fine with staying on and talking about it. I completely understand if some of you have wives and family to get back to, but I mean, we might keep the party going as long as the lights. Curious to get your thoughts on the 13 players that have been drafted so far. Who in your mind is going to have the best season of them, and who do you think is going to either not get any playing time or just not play well once they're on the field?
I think that my opinion is Trubisky's going to struggle the most, even if he turns out to be good. I think that he may be one of those guys who struggles early on. I think Myles Garrett's going to make an immediate impact. I think he's a guy who can be a game changer on defense, provided he stays healthy. Again, he's a number one pick. That's kind of the easy one. So if I'm going to go aside from that, because he was the number one pick, and that seems to be the easy one, maybe Solomon Thomas, again, another impact guy.
Right. I mean, that's the big thing. You're going to have to look at the guys that are playing on the teams that they don't have a lot of competition at their specific position. I mean, Solomon Thomas is going to be able to walk into 49ers training camp day one and be like,
yeah, he's the man.
It's me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the only guy that's going to be rushing the quarterback. You might as well just put one down lineman and just let it be me. I'm just going to rush the entire game, and whoever 3 other hoo-has that you put next to me, we'll see if maybe they can put a little bit of extra pressure as well too. Solomon Thomas is an intriguing player. I think Christian McCaffrey has a lot of upside as well too. I mean, you're potentially going to play that spread offense now with Cam Newton and McCaffrey back there. No one's going to know who's getting the ball. We could see almost that college quarterback, running back style return for these two guys and kind of dominate the NFL a little bit like what we saw with Colin Kaepernick back when he was very successful with the 49ers. I think McCaffrey, of course, is still a little bit of a concern. You don't know exactly what he's going to be able to bring to the pro level, but I think he is also still a very talented guy, and I think he has a lot of upside personally.
What do you now? Let me ask you, because before you give your answer, because I looked at these receivers, and I think Williams is the most well-rounded receiver of them all. Do you think John Ross being 5'11", does that hurt him? Does Davis's injury hurt him? Do you think one of these receivers could stand out as being the best player picked in the first round?
I feel like if you're looking at the receiver that's going to make an immediate impact, it's probably going to be John Ross, just because you look at the Bengals. We all know A.J. Green, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Tyler Eifert gets injured a lot. And you look at, they did draft Boyd last year, but he didn't really do too much for them. So you get a guy who's smaller but has a lot of speed. That's going to definitely help out Cincinnati and help out Andy Dalton. And you look at, they struggled last year. One of the most disappointing teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
So getting a guy that can help them get the attraction away from A.J. Green is definitely going to boost that offense.
Go ahead.
I was never a big speed guy. I was always a big hands guy, and I think Mike Williams has probably the best hands of the draft. So I think he's really gonna shine, especially catching it from Phillip Rivers. He's gonna be playing in some good weather out in Los Angeles, and I just think he's going to be the most impactful rookie as far as the receivers go. I think overall the most impactful rookie is going to be Marshawn Lattimore. I think he's going to step into that defensive backfield in New Orleans, and he's just going to tear it up. As we see that the Eagles have now taken Derek Barnett, the defensive end from Tennessee.
Who people thought.
Yeah,
exactly.
and that makes a lot of sense for them. But getting back, Marshawn Lattimore is somebody that is going to step in. He is, he's going to be facing guys like Julio Jones and Mike Evans and stuff like that. That's it.
It's a big task.
It is. It's throwing yourself into the fire, but I think he's more than capable and ready to step in there and really take the reins of that defense.
I'm looking at a couple of comments here, too, on Facebook. Greg says that he believes Jamal Adams, taken by the Jets, is his pick for who he thinks is going to have the best year. Also, we see Timothy says Mike Williams will be able to go up and fight for balls just like other big NFL wide receivers, so he thinks he has a lot of upside as well,
I got some breaking news, Baxter.
Please
I'm
do.
sorry to
What do you
say
got?
this, Barry. The Bucs did lose in 6. They lost 92-89.
Hey, they made a heck of a comeback.
did.
They
Good
were
for the
down
Bucs.
20. They were down
Way to
22.
That big of a gap.
Everybody else, and everybody knew then it was going to be Myles Garrett because he was graded
Unless you're
above
from
everybody
Chicago.
else. Yeah, unless you're from Chicago and you're going to take Mitch Trubisky. But it's hard to. They were saying today that there was some statistic that it was Reggie White and Myles Garrett and somebody else from the SEC that were the only 3 defensive players to have 30 sacks. And some other ridiculous stat.
Forgive my ignorance. Where did Reggie White go to college?
Tennessee.
Did he really?
Yeah. Went
Wow.
to Tennessee, then went to the USFL, and then went to Philadelphia. But for him to be put in that category with a Reggie White, and I forget who the other guy was. I'm going to have to do a little research. But it was just amazing to me to hear that he was one of only 3, and Reggie White and the other cat that I can't remember was in there.
It's amazing because then you look at the rest of the grades and there's a bunch of guys that are in at 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", but to see a guy that's a full point higher, but that could mean nothing because one of the things I've always said about the combine and about some of the scouting tools that people use is you could have measurables, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have some of that X factor and some of the things that make you a great player. Now, I believe that Garrett's going to be that guy. He's going to be great. But what I'm saying is a lot of times people get lost in these numbers. And you go, well, he can run this fast and he can jump this high. But is he a football player? And so we're going to find out quickly if Garrett's a football player. Like I said, I think he is, but we can't get too lost in these numbers.
Yeah, also, if you look at the fact that people are saying that, he might have gave up on some plays, and he did have the injury history, but who knows who's right on that? Is it the fact that he's giving up on plays, or could it be the fact that he was just playing injured the whole time? So you do have to take that into consideration.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this draft, there's definitely been some surprises, and even with some of the surprises and some of the players that have fallen into some other teams' laps, in some cases, those teams have stayed with the person that they scouted and brought in for the visit and not necessarily, changed their draft strategy, even though some players had, like we said with the Eagles, taking Barrett, that's the guy they really wanted, even though some of these other guys who graded higher fell down to him, they kind of stuck with the guy they vetted out.
Okay. So, looks like the Colts are up on the clock next.
They are.
Who do you guys think they go here? Is this the time where Reuben Foster comes off the board?
Well, I mean, we've already talked about it. Indianapolis needs a lot of help defensively, and I really don't know what to think about it. I feel like if you're Indianapolis, you need a playmaker that can come in and start right away because they have been absolutely abysmal for the last couple of seasons. And I understand the Colts have Andrew Luck as their quarterback, but you look at that, they don't really have any weapons for him to throw the ball to. I know T.Y. Hilton is a good wide receiver. He's not as good as I think people used to think he is.
Tight end position is kind of iffy too. So.
It is.
So is their running back.
So is the running back. So is their offensive
I can
line.
see a Dalvin Cook or an O.J. Howard here.
I would agree with that.
It should be.
But when you talk to people within the organization, or in my case, talk to people who talk to people within the organization.
You got a guy who knows a guy.
Right.
Who knew a guy?
They keep hearing, well, we really got to get better at linebacker. We really got to shore up our defense, which makes me believe that they have way more holes than you would think with a guy who a couple years ago was being considered as an elite quarterback in Andrew Luck, but yet, you mentioned it, running back. You mentioned tight end. I don't think they're not necessarily that deep at wide receiver, plus all their defensive holes.
I see this as being maybe a Malik Hooker type of spot
that would
here.
Solve a lot of problems, that's for sure. David seems to have the real thing here. He said the Colts. The biggest need is for all the other NFL teams to just stop playing football. So that would be the biggest thing.
They're not that bad.
Greg is saying Malik Hooker to Indy. I have yet to see that officially confirmed, but I wouldn't be surprised if that actually is the real deal.
It looks like my friend David has commented it, and he actually
up,
agrees
David?
with me for once.
Oh.
He says Foster or Hooker would be a great pick right here.
Yeah, Foster. Somebody's going to get a steal with Reuben Foster.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in that realm. He's dropped probably 5 picks to where I think he should have gone. He falls a couple more picks.
I just wait till he falls to Baltimore, and they say, "Uh-oh, next Ray Lewis."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Ray Lewis.
Baltimore's
fell,
next.
and Baltimore is next. I was thinking maybe Baltimore was going to trade out of that 16th pick because they wanted John Ross so bad, and now he's not gone, and now he's not there anymore. But I see them possibly picking a Reuben Foster. That would be unbelievable for them.
Yeah.
And what a stack of linebackers they've had in their history.
And that's the thing. You think of franchises over the last decade or so that have just dominated. Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, and now a potential guy like Reuben Foster going to Baltimore. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Not many other franchises can really stack up with those 3 guys if that ends up being the guy that ends up going to Baltimore, obviously.
Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
So aside from this, we've talked a lot about, of course, the first 14 picks. We're waiting for the 15th pick,
Malik
of course,
Hooker.
as well, too. It is look like, Malik Hooker officially taking that one. So now Baltimore is on the clock, of course.
Reuben Foster's the pick that makes the most sense. A, he's a great player.
Yep.
B, of his pedigree. C, linebackers in Baltimore. He fits the kind of grit and grime of that Baltimore defense. Like, how certain players you look at, you go, he's a Steeler. That guy's a Cowboy. This guy's a Raven. I mean, he really
He
is.
is. Yeah. When did we see Jonathan Allen come off the board? I think I'm still a little
No,
surprised
he's
by that.
best. One of the
That's
best
the best
available.
available.
Yeah.
I know that. I'm saying when.
Oh,
do we,
when?
When? That's what I asked.
Yeah.
Is when?
Oh my gosh.
When?
Yeah. We've completely forgot to talk about him.
Right, and
It's
I was
crazy.
looking back here too, Ian. I have your mock draft pulled up here that you wrote for Brew Sports earlier today as well. Looking to see where you have some of these guys going that have come off the board. I mean, you had Patrick Mahomes going to the Texans. Obviously, that didn't end up happening. Deshaun Watson, you had going to the Chiefs, of course.
Some people
changed
had
switch.
Allen going 3 to the Bears before they made the trade.
Right. Yeah, you had Allen to the Titans, Ian.
I see.
Yeah, and 18, they are coming up at 18, so he could slip there.
I also see if he does slip even down to number 20, the Broncos just gobbling him up. The Broncos, you put Von Miller and then Jonathan Allen on that defensive line. Von Miller on the outside, Jonathan Allen on the defensive line. Man, that Broncos defense is going to be solid again.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. If he can drop that low, although I know a lot of people want him to go offensive line, I would completely be okay with them getting Allen there.
Do you think anything at all about the Foster issues at the combine or the failed drug test? Does any of that matter at all at this point?
I feel like it's not more the diluted sample; it's more of the other thing that happened with him.
Right,
'Cause you
the
look
issue. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, usually if you get an issue before the draft, it's never good. But he had 2 things come up, so that's probably why his stock has dropped so low. I mean, a lot of people thought he could have been a top 5 pick at one point, and then one thing happens, and now he's not even drafted yet. So.
Well, and another thing, too, I did find out a little bit more, too, from one of our correspondents, Greg Allen, letting us know why a guy like Allen is still on the board. It's because he has really bad arthritic shoulders as well, too. So, I mean, that's something that, of course, could take a little bit of air out of your possibility of being a dynamic player.
Same thing happened to Brian Bosworth. When he went into the
The
NFL.
boss.
Yeah, he was a great linebacker at Oklahoma, but when he went into the NFL, they tested his shoulders. They said he had the shoulders of a 60-year-old.
I will never forget what a flop he was, and obviously for reasons that he couldn't control in some cases. And I remember Bo Jackson running him over.
Oh yeah,
just absolutely.
And I love how they
trucking him.
And I love how they redid it with the whole Tecmo thing with the Kia commercials this year. That was fun. That brought back a lot of childhood memories.
By the way,
I
want to say this about Tecmo. Okay, so you had Tecmo Bowl, and then you had the Tecmo Super Bowls, versions 1 and versions 2.
Super Bowl was better.
Way better.
Way better.
But I want to tell you something. I can't tell you how many times I called my defense correct for the Buffalo Bills, and he still completed that pass every single time. And Houston, you couldn't stop Warren Moon on that game.
No.
Warren Moon was the unstoppable.
I tell you, the direct snap to Thurman Thomas, though, was the best. I'm sorry. We're getting off on a technical tangent here, but we used to play that in my buddy's basement for hours and days on end.
We would sit down in college, and we would start on Friday. Me, a buddy, and he'd take an AFC team, I'd take an NFC team, sometimes my brother would, and we'd start Friday night, we'd end Sunday afternoon, and we'd usually both manage to get to the Super Bowl. And
wow,
it was kind of cool because we'd have all these high scoring games, and we'd play each other, and it'd be like 12-10.
We didn't do that. We just picked it. We just simulated to the playoffs. Then we picked teams out of a hat, and then we played the playoffs. It was fun.
A couple of comments on Facebook. David here says pass rush is so barren in Baltimore. Plus losing Jerrigan and Guy, Allen would make a lot of sense here. That is a very valid point. The pick is officially in for Baltimore. Waiting to see who it's going to end up being. I don't know if you've heard or not yet, Barry, on your fast and quick access that you've got. Barry, our on the set insider.
I'm trying to get it here, so
no, it's all good. Like I said, we have yet to see anything pop up either via the comments or anything. Of course, Tanner also coming back on through the comments saying that he thinks the Bills, the Raiders, and the Giants are unstoppable, and he says that he's an expert. I'm sure he's an expert bluffer, but I don't think he's an expert at being correct, honestly. So we'll have to see what ends up coming from there. That's crazy. I don't honestly know what to say so far about this draft.
Well, we're halfway through it with
this
pick. This is the
half. Yeah. I mean, are you guys good to keep rolling? I mean, I'm good to keep talking.
I'm good for a while. And
I would be, but I have a family to get home to, so I'm gonna have to step out after this Ravens pick. So.
No, I completely understand.
I'd love to stay here and chat, but unfortunately, I do have to get home to the family.
I understand that. Well, we do have Dara Bittler here actually with us, so why don't we
talk to Dara?
Let's chat with Dara here briefly. Of course, a very good evening to you, Dara. You were at a Denver Broncos watch party, but if I'm not mistaken by the little bit of your outfit that I can see, you're wearing a Kansas City Chiefs shirt.
Chiefs shirt for sure.
Oh my goodness. Well, Dara, let's talk about it. Patrick Mahomes, of course, going to the Chiefs here briefly. What are your thoughts about that as a Chiefs supporter?
As a Chiefs fan, lifetime fan, it's really, really exciting to see them be aggressive. Actually, for once in my life, I've never seen them do what they did tonight. Normally, they settle for like a center or something, but they've always been so trusting in Alex Smith as their quarterback. You know, that's their guy for the last few years. He's been consistent, but he's not an elite quarterback. And the Chiefs really did a big thing tonight by picking up Mahomes. I mean, that is big for the Chiefs. So the future of the Chiefs looks really bright having him. So I'm pretty excited.
A lot
of Chiefs fans are really excited about it.
Is there anybody in Kansas City that thought Alex Smith was an elite quarterback? Because I didn't think that was national news, honestly.
I don't think so. You know, they make the playoffs a couple times, lose the first round, so it's like they had to do something, you know. They've got all the pieces except a quarterback that can get them there, and I think that Mahomes has the opportunity to go in and do that. Now, will he do it now, or is it going to be something in the future? And I was actually just listening to Andy Reid on some Kansas City media just to see what he had to say about everything. And I know that the whole organization, John Dorsey, they're really, really excited about having Mahomes there. I think it's something that they're going to develop him under Alex Smith and then kind of move forward and, you know, kind of implement him that way. I don't know if we're talking like Trevor Siemian kind of backup guy for Peyton Manning, you know. kind of situation like that, or if it's going to happen a little sooner. That'll be the big thing. So.
How confident are you in Andy Reid's ability to develop a quarterback like Mahomes? I know a lot of people are saying he's got an arm like Favre.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Andy Reid was really, really high on Patrick Mahomes. So what is the confidence level in the Kansas City area and the Kansas City organization that Andy Reid can actually develop him into, I don't want to say a Brett Favre type, but somewhere along that line?
I think that a lot of people are pretty confident in Andy Reid's ability. He's shown even the last few years that he's developed people. Now, developing a quarterback, that's something that we haven't really seen. I mean, like you said, Alex Smith is not elite. Like, there's nothing that shows he's an elite quarterback. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I have confidence in Andy Reid as a coach. He's done so many great things for Kansas City and for the organization as a whole. I mean, he's brought this team from the depths of nothing. I mean, no playoff, no postseason whatsoever to slowly getting them back there, but they have to win now. And I think that's what the main focus is going to be on.
Yeah, and it looks like the next pick just got in. It looks like Baltimore goes with corner here, picking Marlon Humphrey from Alabama.
That's a little surprising, personally. I mean, we had been talking about, Allen or others as well, too, that would have filled that role a lot better. So now Washington's on the clock with a non-tradable Kirk Cousins, apparently, and a lot of holes to fill there as well, too. I don't necessarily know what makes the most sense with that one.
Dan Snyder is screwed up somehow.
I'm sure. I'm telling you guys, take a kicker. I mean, when in doubt, just take a kicker. They're very consistent. Dar, you've been at the Denver Broncos watch party tonight, you mentioned, because you do reside out in the great state of Colorado. What have been the murmurs around the Broncos camp from fans? Any possible dream picks that they're hoping for?
Well, I think they wanted McCaffrey. And
rightfully so.
That's over. So they're just, I don't know. Now it's kind of like they don't really care anymore. They're not as interested in what's going on, especially at this watch party. Like, people have completely tuned out to anything that's going on. After McCaffrey, it was just like a solid sigh in the whole place. So they definitely need somebody on the offensive line. Their offensive line is bad. It's really bad. So. And with having like rookie quarterbacks, that's something that's so important. You need a strong line. So.
And I think everything still sets up for Ramczyk to be the guy in Denver.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's kind of been the general thought as a whole too. We are going to stay on until pick 20 is officially in the books, and then we're going to be getting out of here because we all have early mornings tomorrow. But so we are waiting to hear what the next couple of picks are going to be. We've got the Redskins, Titans, Buccaneers, and Broncos as of now. We'll see if that actually takes place or not. But Dara, we appreciate you swinging by for just a little bit, and of course we look forward to having you back again on for some more coverage tomorrow. From what I've been hearing from the rumors, you're going to come by one of the shows tomorrow and give us more official reaction to the first round. So until tomorrow, thanks again for hanging out, and good luck at the watch party tonight for the Broncos.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. You as well, too. There goes Dara Bittler, one of our NFL correspondents on the Brew Sports Network. So a little bit more reaction here, guys, to what we just saw while we were just chatting with Darla.
It's funny to read Ian Rappaport from NFL.com. He was just like, he said, and the Ravens do pick a player from Alabama, but it's Marlon Humphrey.
It's like,
everybody was expecting Reuben Foster to go there.
I thought so, too.
Marlon Humphrey, he's a great corner. Didn't expect them to go corner, but, it's interesting to see now, where do the Redskins go? Do they go? I would think they'd go with Jonathan Allen. They have to. He's fallen so far unless they see unless teams are seeing something that other people don't see.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could use a guy like Foster. I've heard a few people kind of throw out the Florida State running back Cook.
Dalvin Cook, yeah.
I mean, yes, running back's a need, but I think now all the running backs that are left that are still draftable are all so.
But I don't think it's a
dire.
I don't think it's a dire need.
I don't either.
Here's an interesting thing. Greg on Facebook, one of our correspondents here, he's been updating us all night. He says, this is just a theory. He says Cleveland may be taking another run at Jimmy Garoppolo with all the draft picks they've been acquiring.
It would make sense because you look at, they still have a pick in the first round, I believe.
Yeah.
And New England doesn't have a pick, so
they don't have a pick for the first two rounds, right?
That's
so
a great
getting
thought.
all these picks makes sense.
I completely. He just fell out. I thought about Garoppolo all week, and then today he just dropped off my radar.
Well, A.J. McCarron apparently for the Bengals is worth a first-round pick, according to what Cincinnati's been saying also, which I think is completely idiotic.
Stupid. Yeah, but
They're not nearly the same player.
No, I never thought he could be in play. He
Yeah.
absolutely could.
I mean, we've heard too that Bill Belichick early on in his career loved to stash draft picks. I mean, he was kind of that Ted Thompson for a while, and then he's gotten more towards the side of actually taking players that are in the league that are actually, understandable and can actually prove themselves now.
And if you're Cleveland, if there was something that was already in the works, maybe that's why you felt comfortable drafting or moving down, getting out of that position. Now you don't get Watson, but you get a Garoppolo. And we don't know what that's going to look like. We've seen New England backups in the past get starting gigs somewhere and realize that the system made them as good of a quarterback as they were. But or maybe Garoppolo is a starting quarterback somewhere. We'll find out.
That is very true. Patrick says the Redskins pick is in, yet to hear exactly who it is. Tim says Cook is an all-around great running back and a beast. David says Joe Mixon is way better than Cook. Mixon is a Fournette Elliott level talent on film.
I agree. I think
on film.
On
film.
But off field.
But that's just it.
That's where it all comes into.
Right, and teams, guys with off-field problems will get drafted. But it's all about committing the money and the resources and the prestige. You get a guy who's a first-round pick. He's got to be a starter. He's got to be a guy you build your franchise around most of the time. So Mixon's he's going to end up being a steal for somebody. But that's probably why he continues to fall, as probably out of the first round in most cases.
Yeah, I'm going to be very curious to see what comes from all of that, of course. If you're just hanging out with us, we are going to be here until the 20th pick is in the bag. We still have just a couple more to get through. The Redskins pick is in, yet to get officially announced. Titans, Buccaneers, and Broncos. And then we're going to bid adieu for the evening. We've been rolling here since 7 o'clock Central Time.
You're going to have a full – think about you're going to have the rest of the first round to talk about tomorrow morning. Including what will continue, I'm sure, to continue.
I might as well not even show up to halftime tomorrow because Tanner's just going to talk about the Bills. I'm going to get and the Packers drafted this person, and then Tanner's going to be like, all right, shut up. This is why the Bills are going to be the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, you got
you
got your hands full.
I really do. We even saw him when he was trying to talk to us before, too. We were all just kind of looking at each other okay, never mind.
Getting a word in with Tanner, getting a word in edgewise with Tanner is, I can't believe you actually do it on a daily basis.
This is why I throw pies in his face and then play games like What's in My Mouth with him as well, too. That's a game that we're playing tomorrow if you want to watch halftime at 11 Central Time.
What's in my... that just sounds
11
dirty.
a.m. Central Time. Watch at halftime tomorrow. We're playing What's in My Mouth. Yeah. Anyway, take that as you want.
Okay. Well, we are now out of family viewing hours.
We are out. It is. It's officially. It's
HBO time, isn't it?
It is. So I mean, I can take. No, anyway, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take my shirt off. Anyway, still waiting to hear officially what's going on. Tanner also fighting me in the comments, saying that I can't hear him apparently, or he can't hear me based off of my comments to him. But you'll get it. What's coming to you soon. So don't you worry about that, Burke.
And by the way, I think you'd probably be the most voted to take your shirt off among the four of us.
Yeah.
What do you guys say about? What are you saying, Barry?
You know exactly what I'm saying.
Ian was an all-conference, lineman. He's got the body.
So was I.
Yeah, I was an athlete once, like years.
I played soccer. I could show my calves off.
I work out.
Nobody wants to see my 46-year-old.
I just ran a 5K. Ooh, looks like the pick's in, guys.
Jonathan Allen.
Who we got? Jonathan Allen going to the Redskins.
A steal.
Made sense.
Yeah, a steal there.
Yeah, he dropped so far, and he's going to be out to prove. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be out to prove people wrong.
So Jonathan Allen, a 6'3" defensive end, 286 out of Alabama, the Washington Redskins, as we mentioned. I'm a little surprised they didn't try to shore up a little bit more offensive help. They did get Terrell Pryor in a one-year contract. Who's the running back in Washington?
They got to go Fat Rob.
Oh, that's right. Big old Fat Rob. That's right.
Robert Kelly.
Do you think they draft a running back at some point in this draft just to help shore up?
Yeah, it's so running back
If Rob
heavy.
Kelly's your number one option.
I'd say third round, maybe.
I think so. That would make a lot of sense to me. So Tennessee's back on the clock here, guys.
Dory Jackson is a guy I'm hearing Tennessee might make a run at here.
Why not? I mean, to recap earlier on, Tennessee did take Corey Davis from Western Michigan, 6'3" wide receiver from their pick that they got traded from the LA Rams. Tennessee, we thought maybe they were going to go defense with the 5th pick. Do they go defense now? Is Jabril Peppers in play, or are there others in play?
Just find out who the Rams want, and that's who the Titans will pick. I can guarantee it. They're trolling them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very curious, though, about teams like the Buccaneers and the Broncos. We've already think that it's going to be Ryan Ramczyk for the Broncos, but the Buccaneers I'm a little still concerned about on that one.
I think this is a perfect spot for Howard when you get to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I really think they could use that consistent tight end. They expected more out of the guys they had, and it ended up being Brait being the guy. Everybody thought it was going to be Safaris Jenkins was going to have his breakout year. He didn't.
And he's on the Jet, or was on the Jets.
Right.
Yeah,
And
he
then
got
he
in
ends up
trouble,
leaving,
too.
and then they end up bringing in Cameron Brate, who's just a guy. He's a guy.
Just a guy.
Did well for
Howard's-
me in fantasy football last year,
But
though.
I think Howard's the guy
That's all that matters.
who can be a Pro Bowl player at some
Yeah.
point, and he's just going to help Winston with giving more weapons, another guy other than Evans that he can throw to.
Well, yeah, and when you have Doug Martin in the backfield, who's going to be coming back off of injury, and you have Jameis Winston who can move around in the pocket, it makes perfect sense. I think if the Titans go with Jackson, who you're thinking, Broncos, I wouldn't be surprised if they took Foster.
That is true. A couple of comments here on Facebook real fast to get to. Jeff says that he's a little bummed that he was hoping the Lions were going to take a guy like Jonathan Allen. He said it would have been great to see him in the Honolulu blue and silver. Anthony's saying that he would love to have Howard down in Tampa. Anthony, a big Buccaneers fan. That would make a lot of sense to me, honestly. Patrick doing a little bit of trolling in the comments saying, who cares about the Lions? Jeff giving him some angry faces. So Patrick and Jeff need to have a little conversation off air, I guess. But Patrick's been trolling people all night. So Titans pick is in. We will see who they have. We are here, like we said, until pick number 20. Once the Broncos make their official pick, we will be signing off for the evening because we're going to come at you tomorrow with all kinds of coverage. If you are just tuning in, that's Scott, that's Ian, that's Barry. I am Baxter. This is Brew Sports. Remember, you can find us here on the Brew Sports Network Monday through Friday. We've got a bunch of daily shows for you. The Morning Brew at 7 a.m. Central Time, halftime at 11 a.m. Central Time. All of our shows stream live on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you want to listen to the shows, it's on Spreaker.com and on iTunes as well.
And this is why Brew Sports is so unique, because there's no other outlet like this that's doing draft coverage live as it happens.
Right.
You know, so in this hybrid medium that you have, and this is just awesome. And I can't tell you enough and thank you enough and tell you how great this is that I'm actually part of this.
Yeah,
It's great to have you
a great
here.
opportunity.
It's wonderful to have you
cheer.
guys here, honestly. I
Helps
mean,
us out.
it means a lot to have the different viewpoints because, Ian, you and I are close in age, but your viewpoint of sports is different than mine compared to Barry's, compared to Scott's as well, too. So to have the four of us
Scott
here,
and I are more close in age than you guys
it's
are.
true, but I'm saying that even though, like, Ian and I are close to age as well, too, you have a different view on the sports world than Scott does because of, past experiences or just how you were raised.
Well,
and
I'm a
vice
grumpy
versa,
old
too.
man.
Well, I mean,
So.
I don't know.
And I'm getting there, so don't worry about it.
So the hair's getting a little thin there on top. Just kidding. I've got the gray hairs as well coming in on the side.
I'll take the gray, but I don't want to take the thin. That's what I don't
that's
want.
the truth.
I promised myself, though, when I was young, that I wasn't going to be the get off my lawn guy, but I feel like I'm going to be the get off my lawn guy.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I feel like my tolerance and my patience for things has gotten smaller.
I just got a question for you. Are you going to be in your boxers with sandals, black socks, and sock garters on, shooing kids off your lawn?
Well, no, because
And a shotgun.
while I am an older guy, I think my generation has passed the sock garter generation.
Okay, well,
I can't promise
Still
that
black
there won't
socks
be-
and sandals.
Unless you move to Florida because they love socks and sandals in Florida. It's a religious thing down there. It's
What's the hat
foolish.
they What's the hat they always wear?
The Tommy Bahama hat?
Yeah,
Is
the
that
Tommy
what it is?
Bahama
Yeah.
hat, yes.
Or
Thank you.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is it Tommy Bahama?
Pretty sure.
Panama Jack. That's
Panama
what it is.
Jack,
Panama
okay.
Jack.
Thank
That's
you.
what it is. Yeah. Scott would look good in a good Panama Jack hat.
I think so. I could
Pulls
see
it off.
Yeah.
He does. We're still waiting to hear officially on what's going on. Of course, Jeff, a couple more comments here. Jeff says, high quality show, guys. Good work, gentlemen. We appreciate it, Jeff. You're the best. Patrick says, this is one of the best shows Brew Sports has put on. Long show, lots of good stuff, though. And we do hear officially the Titans have picked Adoree Jackson, the cornerback out of USC.
Well done, Scott.
We got to pay this guy.
I just felt like it made the
Little
most
do we know,
sense
Adam
for them.
Schefter keeps texting and be like, all right, Scott, wait a couple minutes. And
Yeah,
then
hey,
say this."
Shefty.
Shefty and Wisniewski. There you go.
Hey, that could be a sitcom
I like that.
or a cop show.
Newski and Shefty there. I love it. I like that. So Tampa Bay's on the clock, but your thoughts briefly about Tennessee shoring up their defense. They do it a little bit later than we thought they were going to do it, but still another guy to potentially help them become that first-place team in that division.
Smart drafting, because you take a roll of the dice and you go offense early, and then you're still able to get a guy who I think is one of the top 3 cornerbacks in this draft. Whether you like him 1, 2, or 3, he's definitely one of the top 3 guys. He's going to help. He's a guy that can be an immediate impact player. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like some of the debates I've had, and I'll get it out there now because we won't be here in the Packers draft, for example. We talked about Watt over maybe a cornerback, maybe a guy from Colorado. And my whole thought was, if you go out and you take a cornerback, one of the top cornerbacks that's still out there. I think he can make an immediate impact. I think Watt's going to be a guy that in a year or two might finally start to fill into that position he's going to play. But Aaron Rodgers' window is about 3 years wide. And
at pure primeness is what you're saying.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So his championship window, I think, is 3 years that he can do it with very little help on defense. So I think you need to plug in defensive guys that can help. Back to how this relates to Tennessee, I think Jackson's a guy that can play right away.
Right.
I think he's a guy that they're going to start on Sunday, the first Sunday in September, or second Sunday in September, whatever that ends up being. And he's going to be a guy that can make an impact. And he'll have his ups and downs. He's a rookie, but he's a guy that they know that they are penciling in right now to be a starting cornerback on it.
Yeah, I'd agree with you for sure.
Well, and, Mike Mularkey, for all that is him being the coach at Tennessee, he's a great offensive mind. He really is. And I think he has the confidence in his offense to know that we need defense now. So I think with Mariota and with that running game, and now they actually have a go-to wide receiver.
Right.
I think picking defense, especially defensive back in that division, is a smart move for him. And I think Mularkey's going to rely heavily on his defensive coordinators to say, hey, okay, you guys come up with the game plan. We're set on offense. Now it's time to go with the defense. And I think if you get a well-rounded and a well-balanced Tennessee team, they're going to be tough to beat.
I'm going to say this, too. Depending on how quickly Watson develops in Houston, I think Tennessee could win this division.
I think they should. I honestly think they should. And I think even with a healthy Watt down in Houston, that still doesn't make the Texans a title contender because the offense can't match what the defense is doing. I get defense wins championships, but you still need someone to march you down the
Offense
field.
got to score points before
J.J. Watt
defense
could
can win
just get behind
championship.
center and start taking snaps, just play both ways. Like he probably would be more successful than
Probably
half the
could, too.
quarterbacks,
Yeah.
honestly.
Sure.
You've seen him score touchdowns on offense.
I
before.
think
He was
you
a tight end.
You should play both ways, honestly, at this point. So Tampa Bay is on the clock right now.
The pick is in, according to Patrick.
Looking to see what the pick is in.
And I have a report here that's saying the Lions at 21. Source says 3 teams want their pick, including the 49ers.
Oh, my.
Interesting.
So
Another pick?
after we go off the air, there's going to be even more wheeling and dealing. So
I'm
it'll be
excited for
interesting.
that.
Yeah.
The drive home is going to be very
So
interesting.
before they announce the pick, I'm gonna say Howard. We'll see if they go different.
I think it should be.
I don't foresee anybody else going there if you're going to go offensive.
The one
offense.
surprise,
Unless
I
you
would
go
say, is
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, you have Doug Martin down there, but he's been back and forth with injuries
had
as
some
well
injuries.
too.
He's
Yeah.
So.
suspended too because of the.
I will say the one thing that Tampa Bay doesn't have anymore is that one dynamic defensive player, but we're kind of getting to the we went from the elite players, we're kind of down into the last few greats, and then we're getting into a lot of good players left in the draft right now. I don't think if you're Tampa, you need the couple extra ball games that they may ultimately have not been able to do because they were lacking that good tight end presence.
Well, and O.J. Howard to fall to 19. I mean, I don't want to say fall
Some
because
say that's a surprise.
because
Some say that's about right. It's a tight end overall. Let's not forget about this. He's
But
a
the
great
best tight
athlete.
end.
Exactly. He's a phenomenal player, but at the same time, when's the last time you saw a tight end going top 10? It's been a long time. So I can understand why
that is a good question.
I can understand why a move to 19 I think is still respectable for a tight end. It's nothing against, but it's not a sexy position. There's a very few.
It seems to be becoming more
It
so
is,
though.
because of guys like Gronkowski, Delaney Walker, and others that have made it more of a dynamic position. And O.J. Howard, I think, would add to that cast of sexy players to make it happen.
Well, after 25 years of fantasy football, I'll tell you what, it's the most frustrating position.
Yes.
I agree.
I
Although I did
completely
have
agree.
Gronkowski
Right.
and Delaney Walker last year.
Right,
so
you get. I
there
mean,
you
you get
go.
those guys. You get one of the top 5. You're feeling good.
Yep.
After that, it's
it's mid-range and it's
Yeah.
low. You're scoring 2-3 points a game, depending on what kind
If
of
you're lucky.
Depending
If
on
you're
what kind of
lucky.
scoring league you're in.
I feel like it's almost not even worth it sometimes to draft a tight end. I know you have to, but do you even bother game planning so much? Because once Gronkowski and Delaney Walker are gone, you're just kind of spin a wheel, you. But I mean, what about a guy like Martellus Bennett? Is he going to be a top fantasy target this year for the Packers, or just in general?
I think he's going to be a top.
Somebody will take him within the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think he's a top 5 tight end just
Just
because
because
of
we're
who's
around
throwing
Wisconsin.
to him. Yeah,
Right.
and the Packer bump. Yeah, there's a Packer bump.
Yeah,
is-
there's always that Packer bump.
That
we
Packer
saw it with
bias.
Jared Cook last year.
That is true. Jared Cook out in Oakland now too. So Jeff letting us know his thoughts about the pick for the Lions when it actually ends up ever happening. He says, "I'd like to see the Lions take Jared Davis from Florida if Reuben Foster is gone. Fast tracks the running backs out of the backfield. Lions need linebackers and corners when running backs and wide receivers.
Well, DeAndre Levy's
lot of
no longer on the team either, so they
Right.
definitely need a linebacker presence. And if Reuben Foster would somehow happen to fall down to 21 and the Lions pick him up, wow, what a steal they
The
got.
conversation that keeps happening in the NFC North, I feel like, is like, well, it's Green Bay, and then for a while it was, and then it was Minnesota. That was the conversation. I think we've trended away from that a little bit now, especially with Peterson being gone. Not that Latavius Murray's a bad running back, but I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to take over a game.
And you still don't know who's going to start at quarterback for them.
For the Vikings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
thought it was Sam Bradford.
Yeah,
It is, but-
what about Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, but they don't know if Bridgewater's going
That's
to be
the
healthy.
thing. I think Bradford's going to be. I'm assuming Bradford's the starter. But then you look at a team like Detroit, kind of put the pieces together. They got 10 wins last year. I keep forgetting that Detroit won 10 games last year. That seems so uncharacteristic of them. But how long does a guy like Matthew Stafford have, and how much does the team miss Calvin Johnson and ultimately a decent defensive presence overall?
Well, defensive presence, I think they're going to go defense, whether it's Charles Harris or somebody else. What I'm really interested, though, is as the latter part of this draft is where some of the linemen go. We think Ramchek's going to Denver.
Yep.
But what happens with Lamp? What happens with Garrett Bowles? When do they get picked?
True.
So to me, and then obviously the local interest is what the Packers are going to do. But I'm curious as to where these offensive linemen are going to.
And O.J. Howard just got picked
Yep,
by
I just
Tampa
saw that
Bay.
just officially. So,
This man is smart. Get him a paycheck.
my God, the man knows what he's doing. O.J. Howard to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jameis Winston, I think, is a very happy
wow.
man right now.
Yeah, I would be.
Plus,
I would be too.
Plus, then you have Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson to throw the ball to as well.
Doug Martin
too.
in the
Doug
backfield.
Martin in the backfield, probably going to go grab another running back at some point to supplement. It's a very interesting, aside from Vincent Jackson, young, talented offense. And I've been very critical of Jameis Winston as a whole, but he still has the talent.
He's you
overall.
know what, he much like Marcus. So both of those guys when they came in, I didn't think they were going to pan out, and they've not only have they done it, but they've done it quickly. They've acclimated themselves quickly. Winston has shown poise that I didn't think he had. Mariota has shown an ability to grasp more of the game than he showed in Oregon. I've been happy with the way both of those guys have developed.
That is a very good point. Yeah, Jeff says the Lions haven't even had a decent defense since. Exactly. He says Ashawn Robinson needs help.
Well, I was kind of surprised. I'm not surprised that they took O.J. Howard. I was kind of surprised that maybe they didn't go offensive line there. But that's one thing that the
For Zach, and there no Vincent Jackson, still a free agent, to my knowledge.
Yeah,
I think he's leaning towards retirement too.
Yeah.
Though.
He's been
that's
around
what I was
for a
going
long
to say,
time.
and he's had a couple injuries.
So is it pretty safe to say, though, that Ryan Ramczyk is going to be the guy the Broncos draft?
I would be surprised if it isn't.
That was kind of one of the few missing pieces that they had last season. Yes, their quarterbacks were young, but at the same time, they weren't missing much else. They have a Super Bowl winning defense. They haven't really lost much on that side. They still have two of the best wide receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. And, they have two decent running backs. Trevor Siemian or Paxton Lynch just need a little bit more protection.
Not to mention those running backs are young.
C.J. Anderson, Devin Booker.
Devin Booker is the real deal, I think.
Right.
I think he's going to step in, and I think he's going to take over for C.J. Anderson this year. But you're right. That offensive line does need help. I know John Elway was big on being protected, and I know he wants his quarterbacks to be protected. It's hard not to, as we
looks
I
like
say they already made the pick. Yeah, they've made the pick a lot faster than I thought they were going to be. Garrett Bowles out of Utah.
Surprising.
So
we're all wrong there.
I said we were going to be done after pick 20. I just want to see the Lions pick really fast, and then we can get out of here.
That's fine because I want to talk about this.
Yeah, that's very surprising.
That's very
We need to react about this for a moment here.
First of all, I've seen nowhere.
No,
and I'm sure it's out. I've seen nowhere where Bowles was graded higher than Ramczyk.
Same. But there was the injury concern for Ramczyk. I knew that.
Yeah.
That was the big thing with him, and that's why folks were saying he shouldn't go that high because he's a very big injury-prone player. Badger fans remember that a lot during his career. It's like, we've got a great offensive line. Ramczyk's hurt again.
Well, and all things being equal, so let's say you're an A player and you're an A minus, but you're a safer pick because maybe you don't have the injury concern. It's a risk when you're taking a first-round pick. I don't think either player is a bad player.
No.
I think both guys are going to be starters for a long time if they stay healthy. So maybe that's what makes you go, okay, you're Denver. You're like, I need to protect my quarterback. We need to have a better offensive line. Maybe I got to go with the safer pick.
What if Ryan Ramczyk's hanging around when Green Bay's on the clock? Does that solve any problems?
Yeah, him or T.J. Watt, that'd be a tough decision.
But still, how
and Forrest Lamp.
And Forrest Lamp.
Forrest
Lamp is still hanging around too. That's the thing in all of this.
I guess my whole thing is with the Broncos, they went with a shorter, lighter offensive lineman I mean, you look at Ramczyk, he's 6'6", 311, and he comes from an offensive. Wisconsin has so many pros and so many good pros. You start with Joe Thomas, you go to Travis Frederick, you have all these offensive linemen and these proven offensive linemen, and now you pick Garrett Bowles. I'm kind of interested to hear what John Elway's thought is behind that one.
I agree with you on that one, too. Okay, let's talk about the Lions. They haven't made their pick officially yet, but where do we think they're going? Reuben Foster still around?
I think I'd be surprised if it's not Foster.
It would make a lot of sense. It would make Jeff very happy as well, too.
They either go with him or the guy from Florida, Davis, I think.
Yeah, Jarrett Davis or something of that nature. I'd have to go back and see officially who he was.
Yeah, I'd have to say, and I'd agree with you.
Yeah, Jared with way too many A's.
I mean, Scott,
3 A's.
you've been getting a lot of picks. So who do you think?
Yeah.
Go there.
Lions pick is in, so as soon as we get their pick,
I've heard they've had Davis in. Again, though, now this is the thing. So you have guys you bring in because you think that that's where you're going to likely get a guy, but then you see people drop. I'm going to say Davis just because I know that they liked him and they had him in for a couple workouts. But, again, it's going to be defense. I think it has to be defense, right?
Yeah.
It has to. Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
It should be.
It's been a crazy draft, so you never know what's going to happen.
I mean, there was also some talk that they liked Corey Davis, and they would have thought
It
about
would have helped solve a lot
Michigan guy.
of problems.
Makes sense.
But he's gone.
The Lions have been notorious for not picking Michigan guys, though, too. They haven't had a lot of success the couple times they've done it, similar to the Packers-Badgers connection as well, too. They don't do it very often, and when it does happen, it usually doesn't pan out very well.
Yeah, because I think they did draft Rudock last year out of Michigan and ended up cutting him.
Right,
Although
exactly.
he's on the
Jared
practice
Aberdarius
squad,
is now a Detroit Lion as well, too. So, I mean, those guys don't stay with the home teams
don't
very
get
often.
me
Right, exactly.
I was interested to see, though, that the Broncos were actually thinking about trading up to go get Garrett Bowles. So they see something in him rather than Ramczyk, and that's interesting. But I'm going to put it right here. I think Lions go Reuben Foster.
And they took Jared Davis instead.
Yeah, of course.
So there you go. So Jared Davis going to the
How
Detroit
many
Lions.
picks did this guy get right tonight?
I don't know. I hope
lot.
somebody was keeping track of it, honestly. But that's going to conclude our coverage here, of course, on Brew Sports. It's just been a heck of a party tonight. I want to give each of you just a moment to just sound off on the first 21 picks that we were available for tonight. We're waiting for it official, I guess. Apparently it hasn't officially come in. Greg was saying that's what was going on, but I have yet to see an official confirmation. So give us your thoughts, Scott, first, and then we'll see what the official pick is.
I looked at this draft all week thinking it was going to be chalk. It was going to be a status quo, not really anything exciting, and I was wrong. I was blown away by the amount of activity so far, and the round's not over yet.
Right,
So-
there's still a lot that can happen.
So my overall impression was I was shocked by the activity, and I was still shocked at the Bears' move to giving up that much. Not that they drafted the quarterback, not that they drafted Trubisky, but that they moved up one spot and gave up a lot to do it.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Ian, your thoughts, sir?
You look at Chicago and San Fran. San Fran robbed Chicago. It was highway robbery. How
Yes.
do you trade one spot back? Chicago moves up a spot, and they get a quarterback when they signed a quarterback in free agency.
For 3 years. 1 year is guaranteed, but still.
It doesn't really make any sense, but like I said, it's been a crazy draft. I love the fact that we saw 3 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks.
I'm still in a little
And
confusion about that.
I still think that we will see one more quarterback go off the board in this round.
Do you? Wow. I'd be surprised by that. Barry, your thoughts, sir?
Like Scott said, I love the action. The action is fast and furious, and it's great to see. It's great theater for the NFL. It's great theater for us. I love the Deshaun Watson to the Texans pick. They finally get their quarterback after they whiffed on Brock Osweiler last year, and they decided to let him go. They traded him away. They cut their losses, which was. I'm sure it was
Big money loss.
Yeah, and
$17 million.
and I'm sure they had to swallow hard on that one, and I'm glad that they did that because I'm a big Texans fan, not only because J.J. Watt's down there, but I've always been a big Texans fan for some reason. But
I did not know that.
yeah, and if you give me a team other than the Packers, obviously,
Of course.
but I was kind of surprised at how high some of these guys went, like a John Ross went at number 9. I thought he was going to go a little bit later in the draft. I wasn't a Corey Davis who went at number 5. Of course, we were all kind of surprised at that one. Some of these guys that have fallen, you talk about like a Marshawn Lattimore at 11, and a Malik Hooker at 15, and a Jonathan Allen at 17, and Reuben Foster still on the board. So like I said, it makes for great theater, and I love the NFL draft because it's so unpredictable, and these guys aren't proven yet, and they're not going to be proven for another year, 2, 3 years down the road. So this is what makes it all great fun to just predict and try and figure out who's going to do what and how everybody did.
For me, I mean, the biggest thing in all of this, I feel like I'm really excited to see what Corey Davis does at a young Tennessee team. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch next year. I have a lot of question marks, of course, with Corey Davis, how he transfers over from Western Michigan and their opponents that they played. You could say that one of the hardest teams they had to play this year were the Badgers, and secondary-wise, Wisconsin wasn't the greatest this last year, let's be honest. But I want to know what he's going to do at the next level. He's a big wide receiver. He's physical. He can get up and fight. I think he's going to make a lot of people excited, especially down in Tennessee. Aside from that, I want to know, what's Mitch going to do? What's Deshaun going to do? What's Kaiser going to do when he gets drafted eventually? What's Leonard Fournette going to do down in Jacksonville? There's a lot of question marks. I don't think you can look at a lot of these picks and honestly say, yep, they're going to be great this year.
3 Alabama players picked already in the first round. Are likely going to be at least one more.
Yeah, there was 5 projected.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where the Badgers – now what happens with Ramczyk. Miami, who's up after Detroit makes their pick, I've heard they could be the first team that might make a run at T.J. Watt. So we're going to start seeing at least those 2 Badgers.
Familiar names that we have.
And then I'm interested to see how the weekend's going to play out because I don't think the Packers take a run at T.J. Watt if he's there. But I think they might do something in the 3rd round with a guy like Vince Beagle. So, we'll see where some of the other Badgers play out. But and I want to see if the Patriots do anything to get back up into the first round.
I've had that thought in the back of my mind all night. I wasn't sure if they were going to do anything or not. Detroit still has yet to announce their pick. It's a very Detroit thing to do.
Do you see? And I've had this in the back of my mind too. I see Ted Thompson falling out of the first round, trading out of the first round, getting a second, another second rounder, or third and fourth rounder.
Yep.
Getting 2 or 3 more picks. And especially if there's a guy there that they think, oh, well, this guy's definitely going to drop to our lap in the second round. Let's just fall back and let's just trade down. It's been Ted Thompson's MO for the last how many years?
I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it if he's getting a second. I think he's got to get some immediate impact guys. Edge rushers, cornerbacks.
There you go.
So we'll see.
So we do have the official pick. It is Jared Davis officially going to the Detroit Lions.
So what took so long?
I have no idea.
They had to figure out if it was Jerrad
I know,
or
there's
Jerod.
3 A's in there. So we did. I mean, we had one of our guys, Greg Schwartz, report it first, apparently, before even ESPN got around to do it. So maybe we should pay Greg the big bucks, I guess. I don't know. But, gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your evening to come and hang out with me here, of course, on Brew Sports. Scott, it's always a pleasure to be a part of your knowledge and your viewpoints of everything, so I appreciate that. Ian, of course, always great to hear from you. And Barry, it's always fun to sit next to you as well. And
thank you.
Fire you up a little bit.
By the way,
well.
This is about as close to like an election day dais than I've ever been on. Like, how you see the elections and you see like pundits, and then there's a kids table over here where they have the other pundits, and so this is I got
I'm hoping for next year maybe we can get our own draft board and we can have 2 guys over on the draft board.
That would be amazing.
And just have like a touch screen maybe.
There you go.
That would be phenomenal. Or maybe we'll be live and whatever. Maybe it might be in Green Bay next year.
You never know.
We'll have to see. Make the drive up. But special thanks to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you to all of you amazing people that commented tonight as well, too. We had a ton of comments, a ton of shares, just an amazing response overall. Thanks to Brennan Mentz, Tanner Burke, and Dara Bittler as well, too, for joining us remotely, some of our great correspondents and hosts as well on the Brew Sports Network. We're going to have all the recap for you from round number 1 tomorrow on the Morning Brew and, of course, at halftime. I'll just tell you now, whoever the Packers pick, it was a great pick. There you go, Tanner. You can talk about now the Bills for the rest of the show tomorrow. I need to know that it's just not even worth it, honestly, at this point. But thank you so much for all of you for watching this evening. This has been the Brew Sports NFL Draft Show. Enjoy the remainder of the first round and the rest of the action as well, too. We'll see you guys next time on Brew Sports. Have a great rest of your evening, everybody.
3